But I don't have them. There we go. Sorry.
Okay, let's try again. That's okay. We're calling the Tuesday, April 5th, 2022 work session of the Bethel Board of Education to order at this time. It is 5:30 p.m. Mrs. Hageman, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Mansfield,
I'm here.
Mrs. Sebastian. Here. Mr. Elam.
Here.
Mrs. Donahue. Here. Mrs. Franks. Here.
Okay. So first up, additions to the agenda. We've had several items already added in and they are already placed on the agenda in their appropriate categories. Are there any further additions to the agenda at this time?
I would like to add the committee forum discussion to the agenda.
I know that Mrs. Hageman had sent out where we've kind of been doing some things incorrectly, but we'll continue with the way we've been doing things at this time. We will put that in under, let's see, what category is that? Item 9, items for discussion. Item C. Here. So item C. And did you add the discussion of that item? Or was that one of the things we've added?
No.
I did add that item. Is that one of your items or one of ours?
No, I didn't add the board policy. I'm just now looking on what you're talking about, the 169. No, I sent it off to Norm and haven't heard back from Neil yet.
Okay, so let's place a pause on that. So policy 169 that Mrs. Hageman shared with you guys, we'll add that to the April 18th meeting, just to clarify the way the injury is being done. There's one sentence in there that's not even a complete sentence, so I feel like we do need to pay some attention to that existing policy. Okay.
Is it the 165.1?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure. 165.1. Yeah, you can see item A is like a partial sentence, so that's just kind of weird. And I probably need to clear that up. So any further additions to the agenda at this time? Okay, hearing none. Item 3, Mr. Firks.
Good evening. First on the agenda this evening is a presentation from Bonnie Berkmeyer from the EPC. She is a food service consultant. She graciously provided a PowerPoint presentation. And the idea is what they could potentially offer the district in regards to food services, creation of menus, taking a look at different food options for students throughout the district. She also works extensively in the local area, I believe, with Milton Union and also Vandalia, Tip City. So Mrs. Hageman and myself met with her a couple of weeks ago, and we at least wanted to have her come into our work session and kind of give you a presentation and talk a little bit about what their programming provides, especially on the reporting end. A lot of our reporting is dictated by or should say our funding is dictated by our reporting through the state. And so she's got a number of years of experience as a food services director, 31 years. And now she's semi-retired and working for the EPC and kind of heading up this program here. So.
Thank you. So I'll turn this over to easy. So I'm Bonnie Berkmeyer Muckenballer. I go by both. As Mr. Burke says, I was the food service director for 31 years in the Cincinnati area. I oversaw Southwest Local and also Three Rivers simultaneously. I was also food service director, transportation director for the last 7 years. So there was a lot. I have a business manager license from Ohio Department of Education. I also have a business degree from Miami University. So I came to the EPC. The EPC is located right over by the airport. We're considered a council of government, a nonprofit. We are really member driven. We have 264 member school districts. We do a lot of bidding for office supplies, buses, custodial, furniture, ball fields, turf, scoreboards, just anything that schools need to procure. We get competitive bidding on that. Health insurance, property liability insurance is a big part of our program. And then food service, we're We're a very recognized entity. Really in the state, we have a commodity program that 85% of the districts in the state are members of. We do a big commercial food bid. It's $90 million for all these school districts in this area. So it's the biggest in Ohio. And in 2018, I joined the EPC and we started a food service consultant. The basics of the program I wanted to explain to you tonight, and I thank you for allowing me to come. This slide here kind of spells out what the EPC offers for administrators, for cooks, and for students and parents. So for the administrators, it really takes the burden off of the administrators for all the regulations. This is a federal program that Becker participates in, and there's lots of rules and regulations, and they're constantly changing. It's a real job just to keep up on it. The administrators have other things to do, so we take that burden off of them. We let them know new regulations, we file reports, we meet deadlines. If we need their assistance to sign off on something, we let them know. A lot of reporting, procurement reviews are really big now. That's something new that's come onto the scene in the last couple of years. Those take a lot of effort. Administrative reviews, the state comes down and reviews the whole program extensively every 5 years. Auditors come and sometimes they do a nutrition cluster and there's information in there. So we're very familiar and have done a lot of reviews. And so we're here to assist and in some cases just kind of just remove the whole burden from the administrative team. We also provide an extensive financial summary and ongoing that's can be compared apples to apples. So you can always see the direction that food service is going. And what I usually tell districts is I can't always guarantee that every district is going to make money, but I can guarantee you that the financial reporting will indicate to you where you're headed long before you get there. Okay. On the cook side, we handle, we provide a menu to them. We provide an order guide that is vetted off of the EPC bid. So we go for things that have a lot of federal commodities attached to them so that the price is good. And we utilize all of those and get things that are kind of tried and true. We sponsor food shows. We have brokers that come to us with the very first products as they come onto the scene. So we're kind of the front line of new products. So we bring that to the table with our menus. We provide the cooks with recipe books, ordering guides, every tool that they need to do their job. And we answer every question they have regarding food service. As far as the students and the parents, latest new products, which I just mentioned, certain trends, as an example, one of the big trends today is student age children actually, they love to build their own. So that's why Chipotle is so popular. Subway, they want to go in and they want to choose from a variety of items. And so that's what we try to incorporate if we can, if we have the space, things that we can move towards. I like to recommend in the school district, not that anyone has to do that, but it's a trend that really helps to increase sales and increase student satisfaction. One of the big ways that we communicate our menu is through a very professional website, which I don't have that embedded in the PowerPoint. We have 15 other school districts. So Tip City's one. So if you want to go on to the Tip City homepage and then go to the nutrition link, and you should see the interactive menu. So it's also got a mobile app that's attached. So people can always look and see what the menu is. But additionally, they can click on any menu item. They can see a picture of the item. They can see all the nutritionals. They can see the allergens and especially like the carbohydrates for diabetics. And the nurses in the school districts tend to really like the program because when they're servicing diabetic students, they can actually go in and print a report for the whole month for the menu, and it'll show every single item and how many carbs. We have a recipe book that supports that further to break down every ingredient and see if I just want the bun or I just want the hamburger, how much would it be? Okay. As far as what the district involvement is in this, of course, it's not, we don't manage the day-to-day. of the operation. So, there needs to be still someone, an administrator in charge of the program here that I communicate with, and someone that's over the cooks in the cafeteria. So that's something that's, still a necessity for the district. You still have to process free and reduced applications, although I can help you to streamline that process. That's something that is required by the state. Certain things the district cannot really lose control of, and that's one of them. Is the free and reduced applications. Maintenance of equipment, the district handles that. The district still manages and controls all funds. We don't touch any of the money. Okay. And of course, the daily kitchen operation. Some advantages for the district is highly qualified personnel to support your operation. So I told you about my credentials. I have an RD that assists me, and we're actually looking at adding a third person, and that will most likely be another RD. So people with a lot of experience in this business and their credentials also. Frees up your on-site people. We find this is most advantageous to small districts because you have a director and they're trying to manage the day-to-day and the employees, but there's all these regulations, these things that have to happen. They sometimes spin their wheels a lot. They don't have the experience and they have to find the answers and look it up, and they're kind of got their head stuck in the computer. And what is left unattended sometimes is the employees and the students and the food. And so we take that burden off of the district and allow you to focus on what really matters here in serving your students. The financial reporting I already mentioned, and the latest product and trends that we can bring to the table. This is an example of just a typical break-even K-12 food service operation across the nation. So the only income that we have is the cash that we collect from the cash register or online, and then our meal reimbursements. And that's only if a child selects a reimbursable meal. It's not for the snacks or anything, just the reimbursable meal. And then we get a certain dollar amount back from the government. So that's the only revenue that we have in the program. And the expenditures are labor, which should be in a typical operation, no more than 55% of sales. And food and supplies should typically be no more than 40%. And then that leaves 5% for equipment repair, annual subscriptions, or like your point of sale, things like that at 5%. So this is sort of the blueprint of what a break-even operation looks like. So I did a financial analysis of where we're at here at Becker. So this year, I will say these numbers are not common. Okay, just about every school district in the nation is making a lot of money this year. Okay. And the reason is because all meals are free. All meals are being reimbursed at the top tier rate, the free rate, and that rate has been bumped up. So normally in past years, we get like $3.60 for a free student that eats a lunch. And now we're getting like $4.60. Okay, so it's free, plus we've got this extra. So, but as I understand it, you all have always done well financially in food service. So that's great. And this is just a banner here with the funds that we have here. But the next screen is what's really the meat of what we provide. And this is something that we provide quarterly. So if you look at the blue section, you can see food costs normally 40%, but I'm saying with this increased reimbursement that it should be about 34% right now. You guys are running 38.7. So with today's reimbursement, I would say that's just a little bit high. It's expected though, because of supply chain issues, and we're paying more, and we're probably, I haven't looked, but a lot of districts are out of their entitlement funding, which is commodities. It's not cash, but it's beef and chicken and things that the government gives us to put in products to reduce the cost. So that's sort of typical 38.7. Your labor percentage at 25%. That's a little low, but one of the things you have going on here is you don't have breakfast, right? And so that I think reduces the number of full-time staff that you need, which when you have less full-time staff, you have less full-time benefits. And that's what really drives that number. So the fact that you're on the low side, that helps to explain that. When you don't have breakfast, that helps. Meals per labor hour, 26.6. That's sort of high right now. But when your meals drop back down, once things aren't free anymore, then that would probably most likely be in line, I would say. Participations, even though the benchmarks say 55 and 70, because everything is free right now, a lot of districts out there are experiencing up in the 80s and 90s. So I would say based on this, that participation is a bit low. Okay. As far as what's going on for next year, so the Senate voted on March 9th on a new spending bill, and they did not extend free meals for next year. There's slim hope to reverse it, but there is actually a bill, a bipartisan bill being introduced right now in the House to try to reverse it. So some people are not giving up, but we're just moving forward with what the information we have right now. There's going to be a lot to consider transitioning back to people full pay. We've definitely got to communicate, get the word out so that people send money on the first day of school. The meal counts will definitely change. And labor considerations, like right now, it says 26.6, which is high, but that I think that'll all just be back to normal. I mean, your meals go down, so you'll be fine. And I can work with the treasurer on doing a little projection of what next year would look like. But again, because you don't have breakfast and your labor's in line, you guys are in good shape. And that's wonderful because probably 6 out of 10 districts across the nation, they lose money in food service. So you guys are lucky. And if we can add any value to this to increase your sales and support your community, that would just be all the better. The next slide is, this is not anything that I am proposing specifically for that. Okay, this is just an example of districts that do have funds in the food service, and you think, well, what do I do with it? Well, you can only spend it on certain things because it's a federal program. So what we always recommend is if you have excess funds, we can reinvest it back into the program. And this is an example of self-serve design. So this is where kids like to come in and they like to choose what they want. So you can see the beautiful display of that refrigerated merchandiser right there. You can put, fresh salads and all kinds of things in there, drinks, and lots of choices to look just like that. And then a lot of schools have a beautiful fruit and vegetable bar like that. That's displayed up there. It really helps the lines to go fast. It allows you to have a lot of choices without having to add a bunch of labor, right? Because it's self-serve. And kids just really seem to react favorably to that. And additional consideration, something too that a lot of schools do is they call it branding. So, we name the cafeteria, we paint the cafeteria, we get the students involved in naming it or painting it or coming up with a logo, something like that. So there's just some ideas and some things, contests to name it, utilizing art students. There's lots of self-serve equipment that looks really nice. If you've been to a fast food restaurant and you see those chutes that come down with sandwiches in it, and the sandwiches are wrapped in colorful foil with the name of the sandwich on it. So something like that is like $2,500, but it really makes an impact. Now you've got a choice of 10 items that have been cooked and wrapped just right before lunch. It doesn't require more labor, but there's more choices for kids, and the more choices been proven over and over. The more choices you have, the greater the sales and the better the customer satisfaction. So that's kind of what we push for. But I have not been in your kitchen, and I haven't met the staff. And again, don't anyone go crazy and think, oh, this is what we're going to do. It's just to kind of get your wheels going with kind of things that are possibilities. Okay. Thank you very much for your time. Does anyone have any questions I can answer?
I was just going to ask, I apologize if you said this already, I might have missed it. Within your company, then one person is assigned to the school, or is it multiple people might take different roles and be interacting with the school?
Multiple people might take different roles and interact with the school.
There might be somebody who might do, let's say, the auditing or, the financial type things.
Right.
One person might take on the menu items.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So I usually put the RDs in charge of the menu. I work with them on it, and then I usually handle all the financial piece and audits and things like that. So, but we've only recently expanded with a little more help. So we went from 0 districts to 15, well, to 11, and it was all just me. I did it all. And then recently we acquired 4 all at once. And so we took on that person. So now all of a sudden we have 15, and we're looking to get another person. So very specialized.
Okay, thank you. And then is it a year-to-year contract that you're normally set up?
So it is a year-to-year contract. We're very confident in the program. We've not had anyone leave. There's it's very loosely written. It says if you're not happy, 30 days notice. So there's no we feel confident writing it that way. Because we feel it's a pretty good program and no one's ever left. So yeah, so it's, if you're not happy after 30 days, 60 days, you can get out. It's no problem.
As she mentioned, the food service program is a federal program. So because of that, we have to get multiple bids or proposals that say we can provide this service for this amount of money. I will say that it's been difficult because some of the places that I reached out to, they're like, oh, we use them too. Oh my, okay. So I did find one with Bonnie's help. So to see if we could find a service that does this, and it's a pretty reasonable price at this point. It was difficult getting multiple quotes or even, a quote to move forward or get a proposal.
So we recently picked up Vandalia schools, and their director happened to leave and their administrative assistant happened to leave all at once. Right? And so they had heard about this concept, and so they wanted to try it. And so they still have a food service director, but that person can focus on the employees, the food, the students, the things that are important in the day-to-day operation. And then for the price of less than the benefit package of the administrative assistant, I handle everything else for the district, and they did not have to replace the administrative assistants. So some people that are in a little bit different financial situation, they were able to eliminate a person and have our expertise for less than they were paying that benefit package for that one person. So a lot of people, most of the districts that have joined, have found great benefit in it. Kim Hagan, I don't know if any of you know her over at Tip City. She's a big cheerleader. And Graham Local Schools is another one. But we have Milton Union in this area. We have Jefferson Township, Preble Shawnee, if you're over there. Down in Hamilton County, we have Reading, Deer Park, Talawanda up in Oxford. It's I think we figured out it's in 5 different counties. So we're, like I said, we're hiring the third person. We expect it to grow, but we also want to service you correctly. So we'll continue to hire as we need to.
So clearly it works with multiple buildings and multiple menus are provided with for elementary versus the high school.
Yes.
Concept we're lean into.
Right. And all the menus are compliant. They meet the meal pattern and the calories and sodium, all that. We have a whole program that does that. Yeah. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Okay, sure.
You said this was a nonprofit as far as EPC.
It is.
Do you know who the founder was of the organization? Who's like the director? Who heads it maybe?
Well, the director is Ken Swink, and who founded it was a group of school districts. It's a cooperative.
So there's no one individual that, as far as you know, as far as founded and starting it up?
No, it was a group of school districts
Okay.
that started it, and then they decided to make an office out of it and hire staff and that sort of thing. We don't have membership fees. There's no fee to belong. But when they do the bids, the income that they get is, there's a little admin fee on each bid, and that's what supports the program. They're audited every year, just like a school district is. Because
so you should be able to pull up on the IRS as far as your 990 for the organization.
Well, I know the audits are online. I can find out where and let you know. I'll let Tina know, but they're definitely all
Well,
posted.
the reason why I asked is I've been doing a lot of research in Ohio on a lot of the nonprofits, and I'm finding it really concerning on a lot of the inside funding on a lot of these organizations, why I was asked.
Well, everything that we do, we have committees on, and the school district members vote and lead the direction of EPC.
Okay.
So it's, there's nothing private about it. It is a council of government.
Now, what did you say the director's name was?
Ken Swink,
Ken
yeah.
Okay.
But I will try to get the, I'll write that down, to get the website where you can look at the all the audits. Sure.
So you mentioned that you provide recipe books. Does that mean that the food is cooked here on site? Or it's?
Yeah, the food is cooked on site, but even for a hamburger, we need a recipe. So because we're stating what the allergens are and what the nutritionals are, so we say it's this bun and it's this hamburger pack. So it's not like this huge big recipe. I mean, some things are big long recipes. If we're going to make homemade chili or something like that, that's a bona fide recipe. But we have recipes for every single thing so that the cooks know what to order. You know, it's this hamburger patty, this bun.
Okay. So some things are still pre-prepared though.
Yes.
And you just-
Yeah, and different districts, you know, have different levels of that scratch cooking. You know, different desires. We kind of mix some of that in.
Now, I know with COVID, we sort of backed away from cooking on site, you know, and started doing the pre-packaging, you know, so hopefully we can transition back to, you know, something different, yeah. I think all districts sort of went through that. They're just gonna start doing the pre-packaging stuff because of COVID. So.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you for the information. How long have you been involved?
2018, with the consultant. I've been in the business since '87. I was restaurant before that.
No, I understand. So you kind of were founding,
I started the consulting program.
So yeah, so that's, I mean, almost 5 years. Right?
Right, yeah. A lot of schools would call because the EPC is a resource for all these school districts. And so they would call like, we need help. A lot of them were losing money, we don't know what to do. Or we just need help, our director left, we don't know what to do. And so they felt there was a need. And so they hired me, you know, blind, with no business, thinking like they'll come, you know, build it and they'll come.
No, I mean, you provide a really valuable service. So.
You're welcome. Okay. Thank you very much.
So much for your
Thanks for your time. All right.
You're free to go. You don't have to stay.
All
And
right.
just for transparency's sake, the cost of the program is $19,000.
Right.
That was mentioned previously, but
Right.
that's the dollar. So when she made mention of less than the cost of a benefits package for an employee, that's the dollar amount. It's $19,000.
Okay.
Thank
you very much.
Well,
All right, thank you.
Mr. Burks, IMD.
Yes, also this evening with us is Dustin Gilroy. For folks that are relatively new to our meetings. Mr. Gilroy approached the district last year in regards to starting a youth play shooting club. The Board of Education was gracious enough to approve that club, and he's going to kind of give us about probably 1 year, isn't it?
Yeah, we're in our second
Year.
full season.
Yeah, second full season. 1 year of experience in it, second full season, and he's going to kind of give the board an update on maybe how it's going, the number of participants, some of the activities they participated in, and maybe some of the success the club's experienced.
Yeah, so my name is Dustin Gilroy. I am the president and the head coach of the Youth Play Sporting Club. We changed our name. We thought if we took sporting was more of a powerful term to use than shooting, and also probably better describe what our club does. So if you don't know anything about clay sports, trap, ski, fire stand, and sporting clays, we're all shotgun-based sports that shoot clay targets at, in front of the, usually kept right in front of the started the club for junior high and or middle school and high school. As of when we started, before we became officially attached or associated with Bethel, we started with 17 kids. Last spring, we signed up 22, and then this spring we're at 43. So we've grown quite a bit in a little short amount of time, and it's been wonderful. Last year, at the end of our spring season, we had 15 kids go to state, and out of those 15 kids, we had 5 that qualified for nationals. 2 of them couldn't participate, but 3 of them went to Michigan, participated there, and they said it was a great experience. So we hope we get to get more shooters able to participate in that. Let's see. The great thing is it's about an even split between middle school and high school as far as participation goes. We do have a couple of student athletes that are not from Bethel, one from Tecumseh and one from Northwestern, and we have 2 from Tip that would like to join next year. So that's kind of neat because we are able to make room for those. We do have 2 homeschoolers that are on the team, so that's nice. We're able to provide that service to them. 1/3 of the team is female and 2/3 are male. So we have nice participation from both female and males. Female seems to be growing faster, so that's a neat trend to see, as that's not usually typical. So we'd like to keep promoting that. This year, because of the sporting, we used to just do trap. Trap was fairly simple, and it's easy. It's baseline for all the sports. This year, because we have 3 students that are going to graduate, we wanted to get them familiarized with the other sports before they graduated, and maybe get our juniors up to speed so they can enjoy the sport and compete at state for those sports. So this year I did add ski, 5-stand, and sporting plays. So we moved from Wright Patton Air Force Base onto the Clark County Sportsman's Club, because they do offer all the sports, and they actually set aside an entire day just for our school to go and participate in our sport. So that's been super helpful. They also give us a discount on range fees and what have not. They have ample parking. We did have this fall a community shoot where we did invite some board members and staff to come see what we're about, try to get the word out, familiarize with everybody. I think we did have some, and Ms. Elam come out, and we did have a few teachers. We do have one teacher, Trisha Brown, who participates weekly with the club, more or less just help at the setup and takedown and getting the word out. We walked in the fall sports parade. We've been participating with the boosters, helping out in the concession stands. So we're growing. We're trying to get community involvement. We do have a big fundraiser coming up this spring. I don't know if anyone's been to like a charitable golf outing. So this would be along the same lines, except it's sporting plays. So we're trying to get the word out for that. If we would, it's a kind of an expensive sport when all said is done. So we're trying to help defer the cost for some of our some of our sportsmen, student athletes, and hopefully get more participation going along those lines. Pay for jerseys. When we went, we had our Bethel t-shirts that we had made, and these other kids came in with the nice jerseys and stuff. So we want to try to get them to that level. But as of right now, it's going well, other than just the normal growing pains of a young organization, finding sponsors and people and so on and so forth. But we're getting there. Other than that, that's kind of us in a nutshell in the last year. Any questions?
I know one of your students who had gone to nationals had approached me and said, how much he was disappointed he hadn't had an opportunity to be recognized by the board. Do you have the names of the students who went to nationals, or whether they win or not?
So I do. So Sam Blackburn, Nate Bailey, and Gavin Ricker. participated, Aiden Gilroy and Cash. I'm blanking on his last name, I apologize. I can email them to Mrs. Burks when I get back. For went up to the nationals. And they both should qualify, and all of those same shooters should be qualifying along with 10 others, which if they do, we will absolutely pass that information.
That would be terrific if you would share that with us, because we love to congratulate our students when they do these wonderful things, and
Yeah,
congratulations to them for last year. That's tremendous.
yeah, it was great our first year, and we had five qualified, which is great for the first year. Too, so it was good fun.
That's great, and it's not a detriment, you know, not trying to bing you on that or anything
No,
like that.
no,
I love to hear who they are and you know, give them kudos when it's too, so.
Yeah, I think when you're new and trying to navigate how to smoothly conduct an organization when there's no framework already built, sometimes you can get overlooked and
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
Whenever we hear it, it's great news. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter when it happens, we're excited to hear it, so thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
That's- Congratulations to them. It's wonderful. Glad it's going so well.
Yeah.
Great, we're excited.
yeah, no problem.
One more year,
Well, that's right.
right?
One more.
That's the guidelines, right?
Same thing, you're free to stay or you're free to go. I just appreciate you being here
Yeah,
this evening.
thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I'll send you off an email too to get those names and get them
Yes, sir.
kids recognized. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Item C.
Moving right along, piggybacking off of last month's meeting, Jason Cook is here, technology director for the district. And as he promised, he was going to have a proposal for the board, discuss and consider for next board meeting, official meeting on the 18th in regards to staff devices. So floor is yours, Jason.
So pretty similar to the last proposal with Chromebooks. We have quite a few that are of our staff laptops that are at 8 to 10 years old, which is kind of unacceptable in my opinion. And we really need to get them up to speed. We had purchased 20 at the beginning of the school year to start that cycle. And that was actually not quite enough. We should have needed to actually purchase about 24 minimum. But this year we're going to up that and go with 30, which will cover the additional ones that weren't purchased last year and cover the rest that needed to be this year. The goal for this is a 5-year cycle, having the teachers basically kind of chunked in 3 groups, more or less. So last year we did kindergarten and 3rd grade, and a third of middle school and a third of high school. And then this coming year, we're going to do 1st grade and 4th grade, a third of middle school, a third of high school, and then the next year will be 2nd grade and 5th grade, and then the last third of middle school and the last third of high school. The 4th and 5th years, we will be doing support staff and secretaries, administrators, and getting them also on a similar site. So this year, I reached out. Last year we had purchased Lenovo L13 G2s, which are they're nice clamshell laptops with touchscreens on them, and so we're purchasing the exact same model as this year. And you can see the different quotes that I got. They're fairly similar. There wasn't really much leeway in them. And so again, I was recommending K-12 again, because we do utilize them for repairs. We even utilize them for repairs on our staff devices, not just the Chromebooks as well. If it's a major problem with a staff device. I think that about covers it. Any questions?
I noticed that you mentioned that docking stations will have to be purchased over the summer.
Yes. Yes, we had purchased those as well for the last year's, for the 20 from last year, and we'll purchase those as well this year to kind of convert those new laptops for the projection system.
And that's the cost for that, like, is that included in here, or is that a separate
It's
cost?
not, just because I wanted just the laptops with this, I didn't want to have to try and piece out both of them. The docking stations will be, they're not going to be very much, they won't need a board approval or anything like that, it'll be probably less than $5,000, actually, I know it will be because they were last year. So that it's not a major purchase. I just wanted to compare apples to apples. I didn't want to necessarily ask each vendor for necessarily the same docking station because they might have different pricing for that. And I didn't want to compare apples and oranges with getting different docking stations from different vendors. So that's why I just wanted just the laptops on this proposal.
So this will be agenda item on our meeting in 2 weeks, is that correct?
Yeah, tonight's purpose was just to have a review and a time for you guys to ask any potential questions that you may have, or to think about some questions this evening and then shoot them off to me, and I can get them to Jason before the next meeting, so we get it.
Jason, can you talk about how the transition has gone for the 20 that were last year, how staff is adjusting to it, the differences between their system they have now and this system? Can you talk about the differences for us?
Sure. So previously, a lot of the, well, not all, pretty much all of the classrooms were equipped with a desktop computer and also a laptop. The desktop computer was wired into the projector and the laptop was used separately. We're looking at converting them all to a laptop only with a docking station that we would then we would rewire the projector to run back to the desk, the teacher's desk, to have hooked into the docking station that we're getting them. That way they can use the projector as a second screen, pretty much exactly the same as having just the computer itself. And then that way it reduces cost of having to upgrade those computers every year as well. So that would be the purpose of the docking station, is to kind of eliminate that piece and try and reduce costs.
And those who've made this transition have been successful?
We're still, they've been good with it. We're still working on, because we haven't had that much time to rewire the classrooms, mainly because we didn't actually get, the purchase wasn't made until September, maybe end of August. And so we didn't actually get them in until October, November. I can't remember exactly when it was. And so we didn't really have the dedicated time to rewire all of them. I will say that the teachers, the 8 teachers in the modulars, have been doing this without a dock for the last almost 2 years. And they've been totally fine with it. And so I would say, yes, they've been doing well with the transition.
I noticed it's Windows 10, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And is there any reason it's not 11? Is there 11?
There is an 11 out. Not many people are updating to it yet, just because we're waiting. I think a lot of technology people are just kind of waiting to see what they do with Windows 11, since it literally just came out at the end of last year.
Okay.
And everybody's kind of, the reason being is, at least from my experience and my conversation with other IT professionals, is they said that Windows 10 was going to be the last Windows, and they were just going to upgrade it for a long time, which is what they were doing. And then they were just kind of like, hey, here's Windows 11. You guys should upgrade to it. Okay. These, I will say, these new computers can upgrade to 11 at any point in time. We can flip a switch on our update server and allow them to update. That's not an issue. Older computers actually can't update. There's a limitation on the chipset, and like certain ones cannot go past, cannot upgrade to Windows 11.
Okay.
These will be able to have that capability, and we can enable it at the time.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, also on the agenda this evening, we have a couple of gentlemen that I've been in contact with, Mr. Zimmerman and also Mr. Kemper, who were gracious enough to come here this evening, and they wanted to address the board with some concerns they've had with additional water that they've experienced with the newly formed K-5 construction project. In particular, I think it was probably 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, specifically, it was right when the snow started melting and then the heavy rain after that as well.
So at this time, I was going to kind of turn it over to these two gentlemen, and they can kind of discuss with the board what some of their issues have been and what they've experienced in these couple of maybe month or two. So you want me?
So my experience only dates back to about a year ago. My wife, she works here, Heather Kemper, she's a nurse. We built a house right across the street, right across from where the new construction is going on. So when we built that, built on that property, or when we bought the property, we reached out to the neighbors. We made sure to ask what were the concerns of the creek that ran through the property. We also reached out to the county as well to see what the stipulations were, and they said it just needs to be able to handle the water amount in the shed that comes off. Reached out to the neighbors. They all said that there was a slight flooding and things like that at the most when it rained. But they showed me where it specifically has reached to. And then I looked at the opening of the tunnel that went underneath the road over there as well. And I went based off of that as well. And so I put 2 culverts that go through there that extend approximately close to the same size as the tunnel that goes underneath the road right there. Very little concern going forward. And then my recent interaction with the water that went through there, snow melted. And we had about close to 12 inches of water going over our driveway. It was very difficult for my wife's van to get from point A to point B when she was bringing the kids over here. And then the next heavy rain that came a couple weeks later, I think maybe 2 weeks later, basically the same thing happened. Then talking to Mr. Zimmerman, I don't believe you've experienced anything like that in your time living at your property, and I'll let you kind of tell your piece on that as well.
My name is Joe Zimmerman. I live on the east side of Agner Broad. So about 30 some years ago, we tiled our property, that drainage that goes through it. And we've lived here 35, 40 years. There was that flash flood several years back. If you lived around here, that was as high as anyone's ever seen it around here. When it went across 70 and all those good things, it went over the road. But typically what has happened is it will go, we have a 12-inch tile, and if you have a normal rain, it goes through that tile, it's not a problem. So when we started seeing issues where the water was always coming over the tile, I started looking into it. So back in around early February or so, I contacted, the construction company. They talked to me a little bit. I've heard similar things about the same. We made a mistake. What was the mistake? Well, the mistake was you took out all the coverage. So when all this rain comes or melt, it all comes and there's nothing to stop it from rushing through. Before, natural barrier would stop it. So it's the volume of water so quick that causes an issue. So in my yard now, I sent pictures. You can see standing water 6 inches deep in a mild rain. And I'm not talking today, we had a mild rain. That's a light rain today. But if you have much of a rain, then you're going to see a lot more water a lot quicker. But the real problem too is you've got an erosion problem. And if you walk up, and I've walked this with the contractors all the way down to my place, all the way back to where the trees were taken out, you've got a soil erosion problem. That soil has ended up down in my yard. And so, I've tried to handle this, I think, pretty nicely. What can we do about it? I've been told things twice that retainage thing on here on the south side, retainage pond, if you want to call it that, is broken and run through, rushing water. The water going through my yard was always clear. It's not clear anymore. It's as muddy as you can get. That means there's soil in it. So I'm not sure how much you know about this problem. But I'm not looking for the world here. Mr. Ferks said the same thing that the contractor did. We made a mistake. We took away the underbrush that stopped this. There's no natural barrier anymore to stop this water. And if you go out and look, all that cornfield and all your athletic fields drain to that point. So it's created quite the issue, because when you bring that topsoil down, now that tile's no longer 12 inches. It's got soil on it. It's literally, I had a retainage pond there, so I'd have to build up. That's full of soil. And if you walk up through there, you can see it's obvious. That soil is so tender because it's all just erosion. So I was hoping that there would be something done to help slow that down. All right. But I'm not feeling too good about this. And I don't, like I said, I'm not upset, but I'm getting there. So I'm not expecting anybody to replace my tile, but I'd like to hear what it is that's going to be done. And what I'm hearing is, well, eventually we'll have grass there and the grass will hold it back. And I'm telling you, if you'd be in my situation right now, that's not a good answer. You could have put in some stone that would have helped slow it down. The contractor told me that he had some ideas of how to do it. I've heard a lot of things, but I haven't seen any of them come through. If you drive past that, now they fixed it. Again, they've built it back up, but there was a ditch right through it where the water ran right through. So the interesting thing now is you got two retainage pieces. You've got on that side of the drive and on this side of the drive. You got all that water that comes all the way around Agenbrod and comes down 201. And then it comes under the road, and then it comes into this retainage. I'm sure they did a lot of calculations about how all that would work out. But if any of you came up through here when we had that really high rain, you were less than a foot from going over 201. Now you've got a safety issue.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to get hurt if that ever goes over 201. So the only thing you can do to prevent that is let it go downstream. And that dumps it all on us. So I've heard some things like, well, hey, the under the road would handle it. And I think that email was talking about the county engineer or something saying, well, they chose to put in a tile. No. I'm okay with it going over my ground every now and then. I'm not all right with all this soil coming down and filling the tile up. Everybody has admitted that there were mistakes made. What I want to know is, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to stop it? And what are you going to do for us that's got the situation down there? I'm just here to ask, has anybody looked into this? I mean, are you guys aware of this? Certainly, you're just not going to dump that on the people down here while you're building and then say, hey, well, I'm sorry about what we did, but you can clean it up. Because that's kind of the way I feel. And trust me, when I talked to the contractors and walked that, I was not as irritated as I am right now. So I'm looking for some answers here. And I'm not demanding it. I'm just asking.
And on top of that, the last heavy rain as well, we just filled up our driveway and just put in gravel and things like that. And I was just getting ready to start finishing the project. And the washout from the rain caused erosion around my driveway just from one rain. So it created a divot and it washed out a lot of my driveway because it actually went up our driveway close to, almost getting close to our house until it jumped back onto our yard and went back down in the grass. And I had a couple excavators come out and they were quoting all different numbers numbers like $5,000 to fix the divots and repurpose the water and run water different places and things like that. And that wasn't the case right when we were building either. Just like Mr. Zimmerman saying, I need to find a solution quickly because if we have several heavy rains coming up this spring, we can't get out of our driveway. And then we're also gonna have to rebuild our driveway, which is gonna cost thousands and thousands of dollars, again, on top of the money that we spent just building our house, which I don't know where I'm gonna get that from. And I'm gonna have to do it over and over again. I just need to find a solution. And going back into when we built our house, just like I said, I asked the neighbors, I watched every single heavy rain leading up until building the house, and we were never concerned about this problem at all. And then also the county, they point us back to the safest bet is putting a culvert the size of Agabroad in. That is a massive culvert, and I went off of the tunnel over under 201. That makes more sense to me because if that's not going over 201, it shouldn't go over my driveway. So that's what I went off of. And it's going over my driveway and it almost went over 201. So just like he's saying, first I'm concerned about getting out of my driveway for my family, spending $1,000, and also concerned about 201 as well.
What should we expect?
So I can't speak on answers to your previous issue. I can only speak on some of the things that have been done currently to help hopefully improve the situation. If you walk the property, they have placed some riprap down in there. They've also added some stone down there to create natural barriers. They've also spent today before the rainfall. They were down in there excavating and really working on the berm of the retention pond. And it's not finished project yet with the retention pond by any stretch of the imagination. So they're continuing to work on it. I know that doesn't give you answers for what has happened, but I can tell you that there's been continued work to hopefully minimize that happening again. And they're still not done with the retention pond. They're dealing with the rain similar to what you folks were, and they can only get the heavy equipment down there when they feel like they have solid footing or ground to get down there. So I can tell you, if we walk the property, you would see some riprap and some stone down in there, and the retention pond has been dug out more.
So what should we expect
Meaning
the next time it rains?
from
When we have an issue?
I don't know. We haven't had a heavy rain like we had.
And I will
Rain.
say, when you mentioned really heavy rains, we got, I believe it was quoted 3 inches in 5 hours. That's not atypical rain. I drove my child up to Driver's Ed in Troy that night. 202 was flooded in 2 or 3 different places. I don't remember 202 north of us flooding there. So in my opinion, that was an atypical rain, spring rain. I did want to ask either of you, I know you mentioned Mr. Kemper, you talked to the neighbors, you talked to the county. Did you talk to a professional engineer, anyone before you put
From the county. That's who I talked to, or the experts at the county that they know all about the
and did
water-
they give you a size of pipe to put in, or did you do that yourself?
They said the safest bet was the size of the basically where the bridge is over Agabroad.
And what size is that?
Extraordinarily large.
And so you, I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, when we go from a large pipe to a 12-inch pipe.
It's not going from that, though.
Okay.
It's coming from over here to that. It's not coming from that to my property. So I'm going off of where the water is coming from, which is under 201, not where it's going to. And they just, I mean, I could say it should be the size of this bridge over here, which is 3 times larger than it should be. But that doesn't mean it's necessary. It should be the size of the pipe that's going underneath 201.
Well, I am not a civil engineer or a water expert, but I do know if a professional engineer gave either of you sizing of pipes, we'd have something to go on. When you redid your.
That was never intended to handle that load. There's a swale there. So the purpose of that pipe is just to handle the normal rains.
Right.
Then the swale handles all the rest.
But didn't you convert like a ditch like this and then made it easier to mow and put a pipe in, or am I misunderstanding?
I know
what you did?
you're kind of misunderstanding.
Okay.
You put a 12-inch tile, that way it handles it for 98% of the year. And then when you have that 3-inch rain, it goes over it, but it's swell. So it's okay. You see it, it's that way for 6 to 10 hours, and then it's gone because it's back in the pipe, okay? Now, it's outside the pipe all the time. It ran across our yard from February 1 to March 1. That's a long time. That's 30 days. I've never seen it run 30 days consecutively in 40 years. So, you know, like I say, I'm hearing things and I wanted to believe when they told me they would put straw bales and that would help. And then the next guy said those straw bales weren't going to do anything. I mean, the problem is twofold here. It's what you allowed to come downstream. Go walk out in the yard. There's topsoil out my yard. I didn't put it there. It came from here. So he's only about 100 yards, maybe if that, from this big tile. And it's the amount of water so fast. What's always relied here is it takes time for that water. So here's the other concern. Once you build the school and all the parking lot, where's that water go? Is it going into the retention?
Correct. Fine.
So you're going to take all this, which is a flat surface, run it into a retention pond really fast and expect it to hold it back. I don't think so. And I'm not saying that the engineers are wrong. I'm just experiencing what I am. I haven't seen this happen in 40 years. Has it ran outside? Sure. 2-inch rain, we expect it. The next morning, it's in the tile. 30 days. That's unreasonable. Because when you run on the ground that much, your leach field, all those things are compromised. You can't run 30 days on top of a leach field, inspect it not to get saturated. I didn't create this problem. The tile's, you know, somewhat insignificant. The way all this works is the tile holds it most of the time, so you don't have erosion. It's the few times when it has to run over it, that's okay. But what we're seeing here is, and what I'm hearing is, we put some riprap in. That's a good thing. Guess what? Who's going to go over there and find out if that's going to cure the problem? And if it's still moving topsoil, I'm not hearing where anybody's helping us out. It is what it is what I'm hearing. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm not, but that's what I'm hearing. I'm not hearing that, hey, we're going to make it right. If the roles were reversed, what I would be telling you is, these guys ain't asking for much. We'll make it right. We don't want you thinking poorly about our project or this school. And if you know anything about me, I've been involved in the school. I came here not with an attitude of, you owe me. I come with, what can we do? Help me believe. Help me believe that you're going to do something, and I can trust, he can trust, that it's going to work out. If we make mistakes by putting a tile in that's too small, I'd certainly own up with that. I've been here 40 years. The tile's not the problem. It's what everybody's already admitted to is the problem. Walk out there and look at where that water goes. And then ask yourself this question. How many square feet of parking lot are you going to have, and where's that water going? And how fast is it going there? Because those retentions aren't going to hold it. You have one on the south side in the last building that goes into that creek. I've got the pictures. I went down there. There's water running from the south, from the north, from the west. Where's all this water going to go? And what I'm hearing is, well, when the grass has grown and these things, I hate to say it, but I got my doubts. I don't know if I feel real good about these answers. And I get what you're saying about putting the riprap in there. You got to trust the contractors. They're not losing any sleep about my septic system. I'm the one losing some sleep over my septic system and it being saturated for 30 days. So again, I don't know that you can give me some assurances, but I wish you would try to figure out what should we do for them people? Because I don't think we're asking for much. I know I'm not asking for much. But the next time I see that levee breached, I won't be as polite as I am today. Because I'm tired of seeing that muddy water come down through our property. Is that unreasonable? Am I being unreasonable? I'm all right with you telling me I'm being unreasonable. I've sat in the chair you're sitting there, and I don't think I'm being unreasonable.
I don't think you are. I was just getting ready to say that you used to sit at these tables. No.
I just want to believe that you're going to take care of the issue. And I'd love it if next year we had a heavy rain and we didn't have these problems. Doesn't mean that we're not going to see water. We expect to see the water. And heck, if we had a flash flood, everybody and his brother worrying about everything. Because if you ever go down Agabroad and he's seen this culvert, it was over that road by 1 foot. So that means it was over 10 feet tall going through that area. Nobody has ever seen that but once in 75 years, because the guy next to me, which was an old timer, it's no longer with us, said he'd never seen it within a foot of the road. In my lifetime, I've seen it a foot over the road. I expect high water. I just don't expect to see soil in my yard. I don't expect to see soil in the tile that's now, I got to figure out how to get it out. And if you really want to, at some point, ask me what could we do, then that's a different conversation. Because I don't think we're asking for you to spend tens of thousands of dollars here. We're just asking, hey, how can we come together? Because I don't want to sit here. My kids no longer go here, but I got a definite opinion. We all do. And my opinion is not real great right now. It's not terrible, but it's teetering, I sat in the kitchen of Mrs. Studebaker, which used to own that land, and filled out a voter registration for her to vote for school levy. I don't think she would have been in favor of all this. She was a nice person. I'm not saying that you're not. I'm just saying, I've been here a while, and I'm not asking for the world, but I want people to say, hey, we're going to make it right. We're a good community. We want to be respected. I want to be respected. He wants to be respected. So if we can do something to give us some assurances and not an email that says something about what the county engineer said, I'm not looking for that. That's when I start to get upset. What I'm looking for is a real phone call from somebody on the other end of the phone, or let's walk down there and talk. Maybe we can talk this out.
I came by your house the other night. Well, I'd be glad to.
Well, that's what I invite. I don't invite confrontation. That's not what it's about. It's what can we do to fix the problem? What does he need to fix his driveway piece? What do I need? And it's not much.
And maybe you can get with the township, Don Black and the EMB and see.
I was going to ask, has there been anything asked of the trustees?
We've already spoke with Mr. Black, and he's going to give a site visit as well.
So maybe you guys can all meet together, so you know what to do with this.
I'm open to any of that.
Just because Don's, I think, more knowledgeable than any of us up here.
Well, I wish Don would have forethought before he tore out all that underbrush. Because Don's the one that did, I believe.
That's correct.
So I wish he would have thought about that, but that's over and done.
It's over and done. Yeah.
Now we got to stop it from moving quite so fast. That's the real chore.
So that's really what you're asking is to slow down.
You got to slow it down. And the other thing is you better look at the real retainage. You can give me the engineer, so the day that those don't hold back, I don't have a problem calling him up, no. Because he's not having the problem. We are.
And I apologize, it's not speaking for the board, but as an individual, I saw some of the emails come through from you both. I don't know that I saw all of them. I did see the pictures, and I was under the impression this was being handled by the contractor. Mr. Birch was in communication. I had no idea that this wasn't being remedied. So I can do my own inquiries and speak with the contractor, speak with the township, and dig into this further and find out if there's anything that I can do. I'd be happy to do that. If I was in your situation, I would want the same. So.
Well, he has kids going here. His wife works here. I don't have an axe to grind, but I would just like for everybody to come together and figure it out, and make it right. And then it's over, right?
And it had, Natalie and I contest, it's been talked about at every weekly meeting we've had.
Yeah.
And the issue has been, it's been too wet for them, as Mr. Brooks mentioned, to get heavy equipment down there to do much. Now, I don't know this week if they had a dry spell or not, but I've got a son that has had, I don't know how many baseball games canceled because it's been wet. So and it's spring, so I don't know if we'll have a week or two where that changes.
Well, I completely agree with you. We've had an off and on wet season. And the one thing that I would have appreciated the second time that it reached that levee and everybody could see that the water's running through there was a call from somebody to say, hey, we know that you're getting flooded again, but we're working on it. That's what I would have liked, because that is reaching outside and being a good community person to say, hey, we know this is happening, but it won't keep happening. That's all. Just a little bit of effort there by somebody would have went a long way. But when I have to wait weeks and maybe a month, yikes, let's trade places. So, hey, you're not going to fix it here tonight, but I would like to have some attention to it. I'm sure Matt would too. And communication about what's going on and what possibilities there are. That'd be great. But what I heard was, we're going to put some straw out there. And the next guy, different guy from the contracting group, said, yeah, that wasn't going to do anything. How'd that make me feel? I kind of thought that too, but at least you're honest. You're giving an honest opinion. Now we put some riprap out there. I would be a little irritated about the contracting bit, just a little, not a lot. But if we're putting riprap out there now, couldn't we put it out there before? Don't. But I get it. Sometimes we have to be reactive. It's kind of where we're at. Hopefully we don't have another big rain and it will handle it. But there is some communication that needs to go on. I mean, there's some things that need to be resolved. That's fair.
Absolutely.
I will tell you one other thing they talked about in the weekly meeting, and I'm not sure which direction, but they said there's also some brush. I don't know if it's in the ditch north of you or south of you, but they said you should check that because that might be causing stuff to back up on your property as well.
It free flows through our yard just fine. So once it hits, it's
going all the way through.
I don't know. They just said that should be checked as well. Again, I'm not.
No, I get what you're saying.
I am not an expert in this.
It's not backing up into our yard.
Right.
That's the difference. It's not backing up.
So it goes straight through my yard, either over or all the way straight through. And the big problem is what he's encountering. So I've had the two experiences, but he's had constant flooding. So for me, my driveway has only really encountered the huge problem twice. Those two times it's washed out a ton of my driveway, which is going to cost me a lot of money. But his problem is much larger, where it's constant flooding in his yard, more than he's ever seen in 40 years. So I'm anticipating probably more problems in the future unless we fix something. But we, just like he was saying, I understand that you guys are actively trying to figure out a solution. And the same on our end, we will actively try to let you know if we have encountered this problem again through email or something like that, just to let you know, and we'll take pictures and let you know. So that way we can monitor the situation.
Great. Mr. Burks, can you also, with our contractors that are addressing this, can you see that they get the audio of this meeting so they can hear the recap again and have like the latest, as well as Mr. Zimmerman's very detailed thoughts about the erosion?
They've done,
and
I
so
mean,
on
they've
and
done a
so
site
forth.
visit, haven't they? You spoke with the contractors,
I walked that whole lot, that whole
Yeah.
line with the contractor.
so I can have them listen, but they're
Yeah.
aware.
I think it'd be great if they could listen and hear because the
He
erosion
absolutely
and the
admitted.
conversation about all of that, I think it's important that's
I think everybody admitted, nobody's hiding.
sure.
I think that's a great thing. Everybody's admitted that we shouldn't have did what we did exactly the way we did it. But a mistake was made. The issue now is what are we gonna do about it?
Sure.
So here, when it's dry enough again, just to let you know, I wasn't gonna go here, but I'll go there. I gotta bring a contractor in. I gotta dig out all that topsoil. I probably got 4 foot of buildup topsoil right there at the inlet of that top. Okay, so we'll dig that out and redo the entry to the pipe. And, you know, it put stone around it and make it back the way it was, right? That's what we have to do. It's what I have to do. That's cost that I'm gonna incur. You know, but I guarantee you, if I took you over there, you would come to the same conclusion, anybody would. Yeah, that's topsoil from over here. That didn't come from my property. That didn't come from his property. It came from over here. And when you walk this line, it's 1.5 foot where you just sink in. That's topsoil. That's erosion. So, you know, I don't need to really go into it anymore. We're gonna incur costs. We know that, you know, and that's not what I'm standing here, not even jumping up and down, but saying, hey, adamantly, we got to come up with a solution.
Sure.
I can't keep doing this. He can't keep doing this. He can't keep not being able to get in his driveway if it rains long. So I think we've said enough. You know, I appreciate the time and I hope that it's been received well. It was intended well. It wasn't intended as me coming here to complain and jump up and down, but I am, you know, the more it happens, it's like anything in life, the more irritable you get.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. We appreciate, I think I can speak for everyone and say we appreciate your delivery and your message and it's definitely heard. We want to try and make sure that people who are trying to address it hear all the details that we've heard too, because I mean, I think that's only fair and the engineers can, you know, do what they're doing and try and get a better message to Natalie and to Lori, especially who are in those weekly meetings, and they can help communicate to us. And then with Danny, if he wants to do a site visit and try and, you know, get some of that back to us as well, so that we have, you know, a better system of communication as well with Mr. Black, bring him into it and, you know, try and get us all on the same page and make sure we stay on the same page. I think that would be probably the best plan of attack. I mean, I'm not an engineer and I don't, you know, I'm hearing you and I understand everything you're saying completely. And I need, you know, I've heard what Mr. Burke said that they're trying to do, and we need to get some dry days so that they can try and make it better too. And I think we're just kind of stuck with weather at the moment, but
Yeah, it's hard to do much with it right now.
yeah.
We
at the
get it.
moment,
It is.
yeah.
It is. We are where we are.
Yeah.
Unless it's frozen, you're not gonna do much
Right.
with it.
And we don't want that.
So, you know,
I
you
don't
might
want
be
more
at the
frozen.
June or
Right.
May before you can do much.
You know, so fingers crossed we get some dry weather and get some stuff down there and it doesn't flood again in the meantime. So let's, you know, just hope for the best and we can get something addressed there and make it.
So I told myself I wouldn't bring this up, but I am. So I'm driving down Broad Road because now I have 2 daughters who live on the other side of Broad. And I never realized how far out you were building towards the road. It is not that far off the road. And I have to ask myself, with all that land, why so close? And the reason I ask this is, when I was on these levy committees and stuff, the people that really were tough are the ones that you never heard from. They had an axe to grind and you never knew what the axe was. What was it? So I made all these phone calls. I talked to a lot of people, went in a lot of people's kitchens. Those people that live directly across from the school in Agenbroad, they bought those houses and they've lived there for years. They never imagined that they were going to look at anything other than a cornfield or soybeans. Soon they'll be looking at lights just glaring right in at them. They cannot be happy. Have anybody ever considered what would help that situation? I'll tell you, if it was me, if I lived across from the school, I would not be happy. But you can't stop building. But what you can do is put in a barrier there of trees or whatever, so they're not looking at these lights, which they've never seen since they own the house. And some of those people have been there a lot of years. How much trouble would it be to put in arborvitaes or something that's going to grow? And now they don't see that. You might consider that, because they're probably not going to come here and complain. They're just going to always be upset. And they're not going to be upset with you. They're upset with the school. And that goes on for year after year after year. Everybody else will be gone and they'll still be upset. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does.
And that's spoken because I've sat there and talked to those people, not these people, those people that used to have that axe to grind. So it's something to consider. Okay? Thanks for your time.
Noted for sure. Thank you. Thank you, John. Okay. Next item. So hearing is public on agenda items. I believe we have 2 submitted. I have all of them. So. Okay. So we have Mandy Seyfried. Just as agenda items, I do want to say, if anyone is addressing item. What is that? Item 9A. The hiring of Mr. Elam III. Any time to allow Mr. Elam II to leave the room.
I was gonna bring that up today.
If you are or not.
No.
Okay. Then go for it.
My first question, I couldn't hear what was being said at the beginning. Is the community forum added to the agenda?
It is added to the agenda, and this item is 11:39.
Okay. So I guess my concern with that is, since it's actually on there now, I was concerned that it wasn't even going to be discussed. So that was one issue that I had. But I also have an issue with it being turned into a Q&A on a webpage. That's unacceptable as community forum. A community forum is open discussion between the public and experts brought in. It is not a board meeting. It is not a work session. The community needs to have a voice and you need to listen. So a webpage Q&A run by a communications coordinator is unacceptable for that. So that's my thoughts on that one. One other thing is I had this, when I filled this out, I wasn't going to bring this up today, but this is the 3rd slip that I've seen for public speaking at our board meetings. And initially, January and February forms were the same. And then the March form was different. And we were told that it was just highlights added to it to make some points on certain sections to make it more bold, I guess. But now this is the 3rd form. And the story has now changed to saying that it was a clerical error in March. So I guess my question is, you guys can't keep your story straight. So which form is the correct form? Because now we have 3. And there's rumors going around that parents are making this up, parents are lying. If you want to stop rumors and you want to stop misinformation, stop spreading rumors and misinformation. So it was either a clerical error or you guys have just changed it 3 times, which is fine. It doesn't matter, but keep your story straight, I guess, on that one. The last thing I'm going to ask is if we could get a item added to the agenda for the 3 board members who refuse to make student safety and privacy a priority. We have yet to hear safety precautions. We've been asking since January. We're on month 4 and nothing has still been done. So at this point, we're asking you again to resign. I'm not going to mention you by name. You know who you are. So that's it. That's all I have.
Before moving on, actually, I thank you for bringing up the speaking slips, and I will address that for sure. I meant to address it at the beginning, and I totally forgot. I apologize. January and February, you're right, were the same, and by March, we actually ran out of slips. So there was a clerical error that picked up an old form. That was the wrong form. They highlighted because we had issues with people not filling out the form completely with giving their address and the reason they were speaking primarily. They did say they were gonna highlight them. I did not know that there was any change of the form or anything different about that form. Can't speak to the wrong form thing. I don't even read the top of the form because the board hadn't agreed that we would change the form or say anything different about the form. So I just call the names as they come up. So it was a mistake. It was a clerical error. It absolutely was a clerical error. No one's making up any rumors about anything like that. This form is a agreed new revised form because it was also discovered that we had a very outdated form. It didn't even have the correct board policy on the back. So the speaking rules and guidelines are exactly the same as they always should have been. And the policy on the back is updated to match our actual policy. So the fact that anyone can speak and it's open to the public is still a fact. Everyone who's ever filled out a form is been permitted to speak, and that will remain the case until the board, should the board, I doubt it will, ever decides to change that. Don't think that'll happen. So thank you for noting that and appreciate it.
This is the new form that we'll see.
This is the consistent new form. Any new copies, there's a date has been added that this is the March of 2022, and everyone in the future needing to make copies will take extreme care to make sure it's the right one. So thank you very much for bringing that up. I apologize, I didn't mention it. Yeah, sensibly. And the other stuff I have is from Mrs. Julie Reese. Speak about Nancy.
I'm just gonna stand up so I can see.
Absolutely.
On God's funny. I have my notes, of course. So, Julie Reese, State Grant Road. I first want to speak to you as a trustee, just for a couple of items. This is on annexation. I didn't know if you said that. So we met this morning, and one thing is I think maybe you guys have gotten an email already, and you should have probably sent one. The trustees are requesting another resolution to speak out against the Huber Heights annexation. As you know, we got another petition which added additional acreage. It was 233, now it's 260. So the process kind of restarts. They went back to Huber and got approval for services from the council and submitted the petition. So April 14th will be the day that the commissioners vote on that petition. So I think you have the wording and everything kind of already ironed out. If maybe you could just.
I didn't get it either.
When would that have come?
No, he didn't send it yet. We just met this morning, so I
Okay.
thought he was gonna do it.
Yeah,
today.
we haven't got anything.
You never know with Andy because he's also the fire chief, so
Right.
there's emergencies.
Okay, that takes precedent.
But the idea would be to do that before April 14th, which I know now would be an issue because everything got moved out of these. So,
So did I hear you right? You said the city of Huber Heights already met? I thought they were meeting on the 7th.
okay, means that. So this is just them submitting, they resubmitted the petition
Right.
for 260 acres. And the county commissioners, Miami County Commissioners will vote on that on April 14th.
Okay, you said Huber's providing services.
Yes, and they have already voted again to provide the services for the entire 260 now. So the April 7th date is the trustees are going to meet with Huber Heights City Council and the mayor to just kind of discuss what's going on.
Right.
See if maybe we can get some sort of moratorium on annexation, slow things down, or maybe less density housing to help the school out. In the new Carriage Trails 2.0 as we're finally calling it. We cannot ask for anything for the school at that meeting, right? This is just, and you wouldn't ask from the city anyhow, you could ask from the developer who has a representative here. So, yeah, and just one other thing I wanted to mention was every year the township figures out which roads to repave or repair based on the condition. So worst roads, of course, get repaved. And Edinburgh was on the short list this year for repaving. And since I knew that you guys, we need to probably widen it sometime in the future, that maybe we can get together somehow and not repave it and then widen it shortly thereafter. So right now it's off the short list, mostly because of the construction. you know, again, why pave it and then have it torn up? So just something to keep on your list or in the back of your mind that maybe when you get to that point where you've saved up some money to widen it, that if we throw in together, it won't have to be done twice and then we see. So I know, Rick, I know. I was just saying.
It's not just me, it's Tina over here.
Yeah, I know.
And,
I know there's no money, I'm just putting it on the list, you know, for future planning. Okay, so that's the end of the trustee part. I take off my trustee hat, put on my private citizen hat. And so I just wanted to say a couple things about annexation. When I was running for the school board, which was right around the time when the new high school opened, the most frequent comment I heard about the school space was that we should have accepted the land offered to us in Carriage Trails back from a different school board, right? When it was offered to us to put an elementary school on in the community. As you all know, we turned that down as the board at that time. So now, hopefully, with the Carriage Trails 2.0, we have that chance again to maybe negotiate with the developer to get land in the neighborhood. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because the most recent communication said that now we're leaning towards taking money to move the baseball field. So there's a lot of advantages to having a community school. One is the kids can walk to school. It gives them a place to meet and play because of course there'd be a playground in an elementary school. It could potentially include some of the existing Carriage Trails kids if the land was donated, you know, like kind of on the line with where Carriage Trails 1.0 and 2.0 would meet. So that would allow it to become a small kid, right, to the mile limit. And also, this alleviates a lot of traffic issues because we're having problems with traffic. We only have so many roads in the township. So if those kids aren't riding buses and the parents aren't driving their kids to school, or even if they are, they would be driving them locally and not across 40 and up 201 along with everybody else, and less traffic to interfere with kids who are riding buses. And as far as accepting money towards moving the baseball field, this seems kind of short-sighted to me because first of all, we need classrooms. We already have a baseball field. I know I would like to see it on the campus too, but you know, just priority-wise, it doesn't make sense. And then also, you're kind of swapping, not you, but in general, it'd be swapping a long-term ongoing benefit of having that community school for a point-in-time alternative of moving the baseball field. And one other thing that's possible is you can negotiate to get a tax assessment on the new houses. So that's something else to think about that could go towards construction, whether it's in the community school or up here on the campus, would apply to either. And then a couple words on the new Carlisle annexation. So I've gone to some of those meetings and it appears that maybe, just maybe, the Tecumseh superintendent is interested in taking those kids, should they annex that part on Scarf and New Carlisle Road. So something to think about there, to negotiate with them to see if they're interested. And then the same questions, you know, what about putting a school in the neighborhood and asking for an assessment going forward if Tecumseh didn't want the kids. And we have not, there is no petition or anything filed on the New Carlisle annexation yet. They had told us originally that they were shooting for the end of March, but obviously that didn't happen. So I don't have any new information on that. So that's pretty much it.
They had a meeting last night or tonight?
I'm sorry.
Did they have a meeting last night about the annexation?
They had a meeting and they didn't talk about it, but we did.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So the only point of clarification I have, just for transparency's sake, I mean, we've had discussions about it'd be wonderful to have a baseball facility on campus, but we haven't committed any money to move the facility here.
Right, I didn't say it wasn't.
Oh, okay. It just sounded like we said we were spending money on moving the baseball field when we needed classrooms.
No, I just said, I think that would be short-sighted to do that.
Oh, we haven't had any, I mean, I think we all would love to have everything on campus, but that's long term.
Right, okay.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't want people to think that we were spending money on a new baseball field.
Okay.
Not true.
If it came out that way, I.
Yeah, and I just wanted to
That's
make
not
sure
what I
people
said.
understood.
I'm
Yeah.
saying-
I would love to,
I
but
was saying, I would
Yeah.
rather see
Okay.
the in community school rather than
yeah,
the new baseball field.
I would-
And again, because of priorities.
yeah, I would agree with that as well. I think we've all been committed to having the fifth grade wing being done and having space.
Okay.
So.
Yes. I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Keeper, obviously there was a referral to your community plan. Is there anything you want to comment back to Mr. Reed?
Go out the sheet, but I can
I mean,
respond
I'm
to
just-
the
Anybody else
school
want to hear
site.
from Mr. Keeper, given that Mrs. Reese referred to his community? She's asking about land and stuff like that. So I was just giving you the opportunity to speak to that.
I know this was on the agenda, so I decided to come and listen to hear what's going on. So what Julie said about the school sites, we would donate land to Bethel and hold it for whatever period you need for an elementary school or something like that. So I've met with Justin a couple years ago on it, right when you started, and was trying to fast track it to get ahead of this one. It was too far ahead. So we know the transportation issues, so anything we can to facilitate that. And I just ran some numbers today. We are on per household, we average 0.42 students per density. So yeah, I know it's coming in waves, but it's a lot less when you look at the units in here, and we try to age in place, build a community that we don't always impact all the schools with the straight single family. We also like the senior housing that brings in additional revenue. I know we're at $4 million a year now, and we'll be in up to about $6 million going to the school district. Subdivision will be worth over $500 million. The average home is at $360,000 last year. So the value is very strong. I know it's very tough on the schools, that, but the revenue is starting to come in where for 7 years it did not. And I think we're in a good place from that way. But I'd love to sit down and show you guys some more plans on designing a school into the site. If we're approved, there's a lot of steps we're going on. The township's very hard on us right now, and so we're trying to go through all those. Unfortunately, we're going to spend a lot of money fighting, and if there's a way we could get, maybe not the best for everyone, but just come to some neutral agreement, we'd be more than willing to. And I've been to with a lot of staff over the years, and I'll do whatever it takes to come in here, have Q&A sessions and go and be part of it rather than just being surprised on what we're doing. So, thank you. Any questions for me or anything?
I'm just gonna ask, have any questions for, see Mr. Keeper and the parish knows it very often, is there any questions for him while he's here?
I would just like to know, are you able to speak to the composition of this potential new subdivision, what it might look like? As far as housing, what kinds of housing and what the allocation would be?
On the new development, it'd be very similar to Carriage Trail. It'd be an extension of Carriage Trails.
But I mean, is there any plans to put apartments, or is it gonna be, any businesses? That's kind of the thing I'm asking.
Our opinion, most of the multifamily is kind of saturated, so that's not what we'd envision. There's some cluster homes, some duplexes that are kind of nice, that are more condo oriented. We've done research on that. Brian Homes just did a patio home section, all ranches that caters to seniors that just sold off the chart. So those are what we like. Danbury's done really well. It's a senior facility. There's some senior apartments in there that are 55 and older. Those are going well. The single family does do well, but when we have straight single family, the volume slows down. So we try to capture all the demographics with all the age groups. And that's, if there's other competition or other developments like coming from New Carlisle, that's a straight single family subdivision, and we just don't do that. It's not what we like, and it's just not good business. The economy is very strong in Dayton, so it's, you know, the jobs are there, and that's the driving force.
I mean, that's what would interest me once things get farther along, is knowing what that composition is. I mean, and I know you can't say right now probably, but once you get a little further along, because that really impacts how many students.
Yeah, I was shocked when I did that today, you know, how many students per density. I thought it would be a lot higher per household, and it was not.
Is that 0.42 per house then?
Yeah.
That is shocking, because when we did it, it was between 0.6 and 0.8 early on.
Well,
Yeah.
I counted the, it were 0.56 if you take out the Danbury senior living.
Okay.
And so that it's
Yeah.
0.56 without Danbury and the 55 and older community. Then I took both those out, and you add those in, it goes to 0.42, 0.43.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised it's that low too.
And that included the apartments,
Yeah,
Which
so
helps.
just the senior stuff is
I
excluded.
took out the senior and the senior apartments, and I kept in Waterstone and Redwood, which is the Harrison, and the rest of the single family. That's a
So how did you get the number of children? Is that based on the enrollment at Bethel?
the enrollment in Bethel, so I think we're roughly half the students in Bethel, and so that's the number, plus or minus. I used them there, so you know, I think I used like 930 or 950 or something.
Think of anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
I
sorry.
wasn't looking that direction. I'm sorry, Dean.
I didn't hear in the beginning, and I'm coming kind of late because I had a phone call. So I didn't hear whether the community forum was going to be added to the.
It is added to the
tonight.
agenda.
It is.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I go ahead and ask a question about it? Now,
When we get to
since
that.
I didn't fill a paper out.
I mean, I guess so.
I mean, I would have filled the paper out about the community forum if I'd have seen it on the.
I understand. Does anyone have any problem with that? We're okay with that? I assume? Are we okay?
Okay, thank you.
I thought you had a question, I was a keeper too, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say a couple things when discussing the community forum tonight. I hope you take into consideration of community needs, values, wants. I know I've had some emails to the board, had some communication with the president, Mrs. Mansfield. We're not agreeing on some things, but I do hope you come up with some dates for the community forum and that you follow through on that vote, that 3-2 vote. And the other thing I would like to say is that we do know that it has to be give and take with the community. It has to be something that we want, something that you want. If we don't agree with that, we can go ahead and have our own community forum. There's nothing that says that attorneys have to be present. There's nothing that says that certain parties have to be present. We would invite you to it and hope that you would come, but we're not getting the feeling that you're really wanting to work with us in the community on this community forum and some of the questions that we've been asking for 4 months. So I'm hoping I hear some things tonight that will reassure us that you're wanting to listen to us and give us some answers that we've not gotten for about 4 months. So I was disappointed to not see it on there, but since it is added, that is good, which I've said that before. So I'm hoping tonight we'll get some answers on the community forum. If not, we can continue with it on our own, and we will. So you can either be with us on this community forum and we can work together in communication and honesty, or we'll go on and we'll go out to the community and tell them that we have a board that's really not willing to work with us. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. Okay. Item 6, treasurer's items. Mrs. Newman.
Did we do the important day?
Oh, my gosh, sorry about that. Item 5. Important dates to know. We're right past that, I'm sorry. notes around it, that's why.
Yeah.
Okay, so important dates to know, we have our musical this weekend, very exciting. It's gonna be Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella. It's coming together very nicely. The kids are super excited about it. Tickets are on sale now. There's online tickets available. I think the links are on social media. I beg your pardon? Can you speak up? I'm sorry, I thought you looked at me. Usually I'm very loud. I'm sorry. So the musical is Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella. Tickets are on sale now. I think the links are on social media. If they're not, they will be soon. There are adult and student tickets available, different pricing for those. Coming up, we'll have no school on 15th or the 18th for students. We have Educational Progress Day and Teacher Comp Day coming up. Kindergarten screening starts. Mr. Ferks, anything we need to know about kindergarten screening?
Kindergarten screening this year is being held earlier than typical. The primary reason for doing so is because of the growth in the district and just trying to get a handle on how many incoming students we'll be having in that kindergarten class. I think it's the class of 2035. Not to age any of us, but. And the reason why we moved it up was based on this year's kindergarten class. There could be a lot of reasons why the number was higher, either house developments or maybe families decided to choose to keep their kids back a year because of COVID and some of the shutdown type stuff. But I think we were at 160 kids this year, kindergarten, which is our largest class. So typically Bethel had kind of waited until August to do screening, not knowing if we were going to need to add additional sections, and then we would have to hire a teacher very, very late. So we've tried to be proactive with this one, have it earlier, pre-enrollment meetings as well to get paperwork and stuff turned in, which has already taken place. And right now, as of today, I think we're over 90 kids that have signed up for kindergarten screening, and I'm sure those are going to continue to come in up until the 18th.
Sure.
So that was the reason why we moved screening up earlier this year than in the past.
Absolutely. I think that's great. We'll have our facilities meeting and Board of Education meeting all on the same day as the screening. So long day in the building in general. Then prom on the 30th.
Good question. Will there be an after prom this year? Will it be here held at school?
I would have to ask the prom advisor. I'm not sure about that. I think it's Mrs. Gatrell.
I haven't heard.
Mrs. Gatrell.
Yeah. Mrs. Henry's gonna see if she can find out quickly for that. Then we head into our May dates, and actually, believe it or not, graduation has snuck onto our list of things already. So we're already seeing our end of year dates come onto the list of things to know. So coming up on May 28th will be graduation at Hobart Arena. So it's already on the list with many things between now and then, but can't believe it's already on the list. So if we get an answer to that question in the next little bit, we'll go ahead and announce it. We might interrupt between items to give that information. So anybody see anything missing on there or any additions to the list that they can think of? Other than potentially after prom? No. Okay.
I was just gonna ask about the Hall of Fame sports banquets. Is this the first year for this? Did
No.
they do it last year in place of doing it at the basketball game? Or no, actually.
The banquet has been.
We didn't have it. We didn't have it last year because of COVID and
Yeah. Julie.
restrictions. So it'll actually be a 2-year induction. So they'll have
Okay.
2 classes that'll go through. As far as having it on a basketball evening, I can ask the booster club and the athletic director about that. Typically, those 2 entities host it, if you'd like me to.
Oh, it's okay. You don't necessarily have to ask. They used to do it at the basketball games. I just was not sure that if this is what replaced it.
For this year, I don't know if that's the plan moving forward. So, I mean, if you would like me to see if they're considering going back to having it on a basketball game, I can certainly ask.
It's just food for thought. Yeah. I don't know, maybe they like it better this way. I'm not sure.
I don't think it's ever been, I think this is the first year they've ever done it that way.
Okay.
So I don't know if they know if they like it better yet.
Okay.
So,
Right. Thanks.
yes.
And we've gotten word that there's not an after prom here at school after prom this year.
No after prom anywhere.
No, nowhere, right. It's not. Thank you. So that's me too.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mrs. Henry. Okay, anything further about our dates? Anybody have anything else they're missing or that? All righty, we've got quite a busy end of year coming up. That was a long list. All right, Mrs. Hageman, item 6, treasurer's items.
Okay, so there are 4 board policies for first reading. And primarily, they're gonna all have to do with staff vacations, holidays. So as you know, there was a new holiday added by the legislators, which was Juneteenth. And so that required some policy changes. And I just wanted to clean up some of the policy as well. Doing things a little differently this year at this time, the policies attached and everything that's being taken out is red or stricken and everything that's being added is green. So if you have any questions, let me know. And I also provided, I think, a copy of the Ohio Revised Code that talked about vacations for non-teaching employees and what's required. So you have that as reference. So most of these I think all of these policies, I shouldn't say most, I think, are all about the holidays. And the one thing is that we have to increase the increase of the accumulated sick leave for the classified staff. It's currently policy is 240, but it's 260. Yeah, it has been for a while. So as we go through and try to just clean up, any language and things like that in the policies. So again,
Our policies were current, other than, I mean, you just had to update for the new federal holidays, or were we behind on other stuff?
we were a little behind on some other stuff like the 260 versus 240. But I haven't read through all of the board policies, I will be honest. But yeah, we're trying to clean them up as we go along. So
All right, so some update got missed at some point.
yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
I just wanted to clarify, so it was clear.
And in February, this was included in the update, but as you know, I was out, and so I didn't have an opportunity to sit and go through that. And so now I'm still playing a little bit of catch up. So but these are the 4 policies that are going to be changing due to Juneteenth and to clean up the vacation language and all of that. And then, of course, we have meeting minutes for the March 1st meeting and the March 14th meeting. I did get the detailed check register out for March 2022 for your review. I'm working on the monthly financial reports, so I will have something to you as soon as I possibly can. And then just your approval on some donations that we've received for the month of March. And then there are 3 new funds that we're going to be adding. They're all 019 or 019 accounts, which are local grant accounts, and the amounts there for your approval on the 18th. And then the adjusted resources and budgets for the month. Then this is J. So far away after 11. Aye, thank you. We currently have money with Red Tree Investments. They're great, wonderful, but they charge us $1,600 a month in service fees. And I've used this company in the past. They do not charge that service fee. And I thought at the very least, if we can eliminate that, that's $1,600 a month would be advantageous to save. This is money for the building project. So this would, help free up some resources for that as well. Technically, there's really not an agreement for you to approve, but I wanted to provide all the documentation that I've gotten from Fifth Third, and I'll fill that out and send it in to them. They have to agree to our investment policy, the board's investment policy, so I'm hopeful that if we make that change that, we'll save some money at the very least on the fees, and that the investment revenues will respectfully go up as well.
When do you plan to do this?
This month, yeah, I want to do it as soon as I wanted to do it much sooner, but it's been hard getting some things off my desk. So this month, I want to get all this stuff moved over. This is just a topic for discussion, so doesn't really require board approval, but like I said, I like to get everything out there so we can talk about it and we can all be involved. they'll sign off on our investment policy, that they have to follow our investment policy and not get us in any trouble, right? So.
And
yeah.
did you ever get a schedule from Peterson so that they can be invested at?
Yes, I got that from Glenn today.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was a time.
Yeah, I did get something from him today, because I told him we were looking at moving our
Okay, good.
investments and I needed to have that information, so he did provide that.
Thank you, so it's all worked out.
Yes.
All dovetailed.
Yes, it did.
Excellent.
Need the board's approval on a certificate of availability. Once again, as you know, purchase orders have to be in place before the purchase of a service or product. Sometimes that doesn't always happen. My authority only goes up to 3,000. This one is 156,000. So I need your approval in order to pay this. These are for special education services for some of our kids, and so we got the kids taken care of, but we forgot the paperwork. So in the scheme of things, I guess that's okay, but we definitely need the board's approval to get those paid. Review of the scholarship amounts. So looking at cash balances, I provided this cash account report that shows what our cash balances are. I think it's the Flick scholarship has to be stay at 50,000, cannot go below 50,000. I did send an email out to Peggy Lindy to get her input, and so given that information, that's my recommendation. You know, if we want to adjust that or discuss it for the 18th, that way we can let the guidance counselors know and they can start working on getting the kids, getting those awarded for everything. Let's see, am I last here? Yes, okay, last but not least. Last month we talked about, I think it was last month, was it last month? I think so, at the facilities committee meeting, we got a people issue going on. We've got food service that has surplus money in their account, which as you heard Bonnie explain is unheard of during the time. And we're trying to save as much money as we can with the building project so we can get that 5th grade wing built out. So one of these options is cafeteria tables. Now we've already awarded the contract. It's already been bid out. And we got 3 separate bids, this being the, let's see, I think that's the right one, the best bid, which is $71,797.60. What I would like the board to approve is moving that purchase from the capital projects account for the building project to the 06 food service account. Because they have surplus in hand, we're not putting money into the project account. We're just going to move that purchase. So just needed the board's approval for that on the 18th. So as we move forward, trying to salvage some of the $32.5 million budget on the building project so that we can look at, how much of the 5th grade wing we can finish out. So those are all my items. Any questions? Question for Mr. Hagan?
I have. I was out of order.
Tina, I just wanted to double check on the invoice. I just wanted to make sure I was reading that right. It says December, January, February, and 357 days. Is that people days total then for those 3 months? How many people are with the primary grade, special ed?
Yeah.
Times their hours?
Yes.
Through
I'm
those 3
pretty
months?
sure that's how they do that service. Let me make sure.
Because when I first read it, I thought, oh, it's a year, and then I go, oh, wait, no, it says December, January.
Yes, it's a billing for that quarter. So it is for December, January, February. Yeah, 357 days in those 3 months at that rate. Yeah. And then, yeah. You're welcome.
I wanted to make sure I was understanding.
No,
that
no,
correctly.
you've got it.
Anyone else, anything? All right, moving on to item 7, Mr. Perks.
Okay, on the agenda this evening for discussion is letter A, review of certified substitutes, one that you see regularly on here. Anytime the substitute teacher list from the Miami County Educational Service Center changes, we have to approve it. So that'll be on the agenda for consideration and approval on the 18th. Letter B is review of new certified employees for the 22-23 school year. We have a couple on here. First one is Zachary Deloma. Zachary will be joining us as a high school social studies teacher. This is a new position based on enrollment growth trickling up through the building into the high school level. Mr. Deloma has a BA in education and also an MA in education in 15 and 16 from Wright State University. He spent the 16-17 school year, excuse me, at Summit Academy down in Middletown, teaching middle school social studies. And from 2017 to the present, he has been a middle school, high school social studies teacher at Bradford Exempted Village Schools. In addition, he's also served as an AHS advisor and advised multiple clubs and activities from 2016 to the present as well. Secondly, was one that got added on today. We were busy wrapping up interviews for a number of positions. We're able to narrow down candidates ahead of time with reference checks, made a couple of offers today, and we're able to receive confirmations on acceptance. So this is why the second one is in red, because it was a late addition in the afternoon. Marcia Kerr, middle school ELA. She will be essentially replacing the position vacated by Mrs. Spears. Mrs. Kerr has an associate's in criminal justice from Clark State Community College, a Bachelor of Arts in Humanities and Classical Studies from Antioch University, and also a Master's of Arts in Education also from Antioch. She's been in the classroom since 2017, first as a middle school teacher at Trotwood Preparatory and Fitness, and most recently she was a classroom teacher / principal at Springfield Prep and Fitness. So she'll be joining us in middle school language arts. A couple of other positions, one was added today as well. The first one is Noah Newman, this position that we talked about previously as far as filling a third shift custodian position. Our previous third shift custodian is moving back to Indiana to be closer to family. Wish him and his family the best as they transition back home. We were able to secure Mr. Noah Newman as that third shift custodian, effective April 11th. Noah is a graduate of Northmont High School in 2018. He's a current substitute custodian at Vandalia City Schools, and then had some prior work experience as a general manager and also production at Pizza Hut in Vandalia and Huber Heights. Secondly is Rebecca Shuck. She will be serving as a kindergarten aide for the remainder of this school year. She is a replacement from an aide that resigned previously. As we talked about extensively, it's very, very difficult to not only locate but secure aides. So we're fortunate to be able to get her to come on board. She has previous school experience at Little Angels Daycare in Brookville. She was not only a teacher assistant, but also a lead teacher, originally from the Pennsylvania region, and is located residential wise near our district. So it's going to be a shorter drive for her. So we're excited to have these two folks join our district as well. In addition, you can see a slew of staff that are on for 1 year limited contracts for certified staff, which are classroom teachers. So congratulations to those folks as they will be receiving a new contract for the 22-23 school year. And they are all listed on there as well. Letter E. Letter E is not a new one, but it's kind of new to Bethel. It's one that we've brought on board the last several years, where we've made offers to the staff to come on board as far as our summer custodial and cleaning crew. Not all of these folks are going to work full weeks in the summer, full time. We have some like Mr. Mark Clute who would work 100 hours a week if we let him, because he just does. But a lot of them will come in for a day, 2 days, 3 days for a few hours or a half a day. It's a great way for them to be invested. I think you would probably ask the staff and they would say our building cleanliness has improved tremendously over the summer from when we brought custodial services in-house. I won't say knock on wood it's been perfect, because it seems like lately we've always been short staffed for custodian and trying to look to hire somebody. But our summer staff has done a great job in addition to our traditional summer custodians that work days and also our maintenance staff. So we're excited to have another 8 staff members choose to join us this year. This is the 3rd year we've done this, and I think we've averaged between 8 and 10 staff members every year. And you'll see that a lot of these folks are repeats and have been on before, which I think is a testament to them enjoying the crew they work with and kind of the work environment we try to create around here in the summer. And they like to make extra money, but they also take great pride in making sure their own personal workspaces are clean. So they've done a good job at that. Letter F is a review of new continuing contracts. So we have 3 teachers that have met qualifications and done an excellent job in the classroom based on observations and evaluations by their building principals. I do have to give note to Mrs. Schneider. She's in red because we had a document from way back when indicating she was requesting it. Graciously, she reminded us and we forgot to have her name on it, so we had to add her. So don't want to forget anybody that's done the work. So thanks to her for updating us to make sure we got her on here, but congratulations to those staff members as well. Also on here for review would be a recommendation for a 3-year contract, which is a continuance of a previous 3-year contract for our special education director, Mr. Tony Cochran. I think he's done some good work as far as mending some relationships between the district and families. We continue to have work to do in our special education department, and he's made some strides as far as trying to improve communications and develop relationships not only with staff and family, but with students as well. So he was on here as well for consideration. Letter H is going to be that time of the year where we start to look at fall, winter sports and non-sport supplementals. As you can see, we still have a number to fill in, but we have made some good strides as far as filling a number of these positions, thanks to the building level principals who are kind of charged with leading, finding advisors for these different positions. So as we continue to fill in these spots, we will add names to the list. Most of them are continuances from previous years. We do have one on here that's a new one. Courtney Barble, who previously served as a home instructor, is now coming back to serve as a home instructor. Actually, we're able to secure her today. We've had a student recently that's had to receive educational placement services at home. Part of his IEP requirements is to receive home instruction. Thanks to Mrs. Barble, who's going to be willing to spend some time outside of a traditional school setting, make sure that student gets what he needs to be successful. And then number 8. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Any discussion on superintendent's items? No, just on number 7. So far. I'm sorry. Just on what we discussed so far. Any comments, discussion, questions?
Am I allowed to ask a question?
On what we discussed. So
Yeah,
far.
I just wanted to ask with the I want to say employee summer employment. Do you know if there will also, do you have an idea yet if any students will be asked?
Yeah, I'm hoping that we've always had students, which is
Yeah.
great. I mean, we currently have students that work in the IT and also with maintenance. I would expect that the students that are currently working with our maintenance and IT will continue in the summer, but I still have to get confirmation. So I'm hoping that maybe they'll be on in May.
Okay.
On the agenda. But if they're already hired, I don't know if we have to add them. They've already been hired, so but we have to do a different one for summer though, I guess. Would be a good question.
How was that me?
I don't know how that works. with
I mean,
students.
unless you plan on paying them a different rate
No.
or, then no, you don't
No.
have to have them back.
I will get confirmation from maintenance and IT to see what their plans are with their current students.
If it's a different position or a different rate, it really doesn't require.
Okay.
Anything further on those items under number 7?
And then we'll be getting more supplemental positions as the spring continues, I assume.
That's the plan.
Okay.
Yep. That's the plan. I know they're out asking people right now.
Okay. It's probably just they're not finalized, right? I'm not sure.
I would just like to ask on item C, you had said that Ms. Shuck is going to be starting right away. Rebecca Shuck.
I mean, the plan is for her to finish this school year, but I don't know what her effective start date is. I'd have to work with,
Okay.
I think that was done by the special education director.
Okay, because it currently just says school year 22-23, so I think I want to edit that on here.
I think it's
before we
supposed to be
approve.
22. I think it's supposed to be, well,
Like now,
it's
maybe.
supposed to be 21, 22.
Yeah,
Let me
so
check
we
on
want to
that.
look at the start date and
Let me-
the effective date is maybe try. and-
Yeah, that could be a typo. Let me
Yeah.
check with Ms. Felton and Mr. Cochran on that. Because I thought it was supposed to be for the remainder of this year. I could be wrong.
Yeah, so either way, I just curious.
If so,
What did it say?
if so, I mean, it's not being voted upon this evening. right?
No,
Right.
no,
So then
correct,
what kind of-
correct.
We'll have to-
Yeah, 100%. So I'm just saying for the 18th, if we can just clarify.
Good catch.
Other than that, all good. Anything else for item 7? Oh, there's some discussion I can hear.
If I may, please, because I'm not up to speed yet, I'll admit, what kind of, for the continuing contract, do they need to be at the school for 5 years or 7 years?
7 years.
Okay,
7 years, I believe. It's in our negotiated agreement. I'll have to update myself on that, but they have to meet a number of conditions. And that's also recently changed for classified staff as well. At one time, classified staff had a different number of years to earn a continuing, and they've matched it with certified staff.
thank you.
Yeah, they go through the typical evaluation process and then also have to be employed in the district for so many years.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Okay. For the item 8. So Mr. Elam has asked that we not conduct any discussion about the hiring of Mr. Elam III while he's in the room. So he's vacating the room at this time before we move to item 8. Okay. So Mr. Perks, item 8, please.
Yep, item 8, similar to what I've done with the other candidates, I'll give you kind of a brief background on an individual. Mr. Elam has a BA in business management in 2016 from Morehead State University, a BA in mathematics in 2022 from Western Governors University. He's currently completing his student teaching at Carlisle. In addition, from 09 to 21, he worked as an account executive for Penske Automotive, so this will be a second career for him, and has various experiences in the school system, not only at Carlisle, but was also a previous assistant for basketball here at Bethel and has been a basic soccer coach the last 5 years.
And this is for math.
High school math, correct.
And they're going to be teaching our finance classes. that
It
are
will be. It's
part of the
also a new requirement from the state of Ohio as far as every child has to have a finance credit before they graduate. A lot of schools previously snuck that into their government curriculum with the economics standard, having done that myself for a number of years. But now the state of Ohio has come out and said they have to have a full-fledged financial literacy, financial peace type requirement for graduation. So in addition to that course now being a requirement, it's also a similar one with our high school social studies with the additional students that are trickling up enrollment wise into the high school. We have a need for an additional staff member in the math department.
Discussion on this item? Questions, comments, or concerns? I'm just think we're very fortunate to have someone teaching finance who actually has a math degree. I know as a former math teacher myself, it's highly unusual that any of my peers had a business degree and a math teaching degree. Like that was just super unusual. So very fortunate to find someone with those qualifications. Okay.
Yeah, could you?
Thank you, Mrs. Henry.
Actually, I had one, he can come in. I have one additional update that I wanted to give as well.
Unrelated to this.
Yeah, it's unrelated to this.
Thank you.
No problem. So I sent an email out to the board once again. I try to send out email updates to the staff as personnel changes take place. I told them I was done for the day and that wasn't true. I sent an additional one out at 4:51 because we were able to finish interviews. Had reference checks done ahead of time. and also secure an offer and acceptance from a high school technology teacher. Just for background, Mr. Ted Olvigus, who was the previous technology director, left late last summer for other opportunities. And we weren't able to, because of the unique certification with high school technology, fill that in a late July, early August, with school right around the corner last year. Thankfully, we were able to find Mr. Taylor Pittsfeld, who served as a long-term substitute for this year. But today we were able to receive acceptance from Mr. Michael Cantrell. He's not on here, but he'll be on the agenda for hire at the 18th meeting. Mr. Cantrell is a graduate of Urbana University with a BA in early childhood education, and he's also endorsed to teach technology education as well. He's currently the information technology instructor at Mechanicsburg High School through the Ohio High Point Career Center. He's done that from 2018 to the present, where he taught programming, game design, animation, multimedia, video, sound, mobile applications, and interactive media. From 16 to 18, he taught at first grade Central Park Elementary STEM School in Midland, Michigan, where he was trained in STEM education, Chromebook technology, Project Lead the Way, and also project-based learning. And then finally, he's been involved at Mechanicsburg previously and currently as a track coach, as an assistant, and also as the boys' head basketball coach. So he'll be joining us next school year. I know the high school technology position is a really difficult one to find because of the unique certification that it takes and the course offerings. I feel like we're extremely blessed to have somebody with his qualifications and experience, especially at the Career Tech Center, with the trainings that he's received previously to come on board next year. Really excited about his energy that he has, and I think he's going to be a great addition to that high school technology and be able to take what we currently do and maybe potentially be able to expand upon it. So that'll be on the 18th as well. You should have received an email today at 4:51 on that.
Excellent. Mr. Burks. Anything further?
That's a lot. I'm good.
Okay. Moving on then to item 9, if no one's had anything further. Okay. So items for discussion for us, we have board policy 2431 on interscholastic athletics. This is related somehow to discrepancy with GPA or?
This was one Mrs. Sebastian brought to our attention.
Yeah, so on page 1, if you want to bring the policy up, where it says at least a 2.0 grade point average, it just needs adjusted to 1.67. What happened is a couple years ago, we changed our grade point average to make an A and A minus. Yeah, you're
Down a little bit further. There you go. Right.
So what happened is like we used to have 4 point was an A, 3 point was a B, 2 point was a C, et cetera. Then we refined that a little bit. So now a C minus is a 1.67. And so the athletic department asked that we adjust it so it's consistent with it. It just got missed. So we're even though the number is lowering, we're not lowering expectations. It's still C minus.
That's it.
This number just needs to be
Just needs to change to
1.67.
1.67.
Okay.
It's not the all places policy.
I believe so.
So next time we'll say it with the red line.
Yeah, and is it okay if this is the first reading, or do we have to do something
Well,
official?
I mean, I believe the board has options. I know we're not technically, we've traditionally not taken action at work sessions, but this is a fairly minor change. I mean, the board does have the right to waive the 2 readings for something, especially something like this. It is our option if we would all agree to do so. I want to just make everyone aware that that is an option if we choose to do it. You know, you don't always have to have 2 readings of every single policy change, especially for something minor. We've done those technical changes for things like we just did with the compliance officer name changes. You know, things like that, you know, pretty clear cut. 2 readings to go from 2.0 to 1.67.
Well,
I don't know.
if
I'm
that baby has
just
a
letting
problem-
everyone know. So if anyone wants to do that.
Yeah, it's just that one. If that
anyone
was
wants
a
to-
problem, I'll make a motion that we just change that one area in the paragraph from 2.0 grade point average to 1.67.
I'll second that.
We need to move to waive the 2 readings first. You guys make the motion? Okay. So we would need to waive the 2 readings first, and then we would have to do this, so I apologize.
All right, I retract my motion.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be difficult. I just want to make sure we do it right. So we first need to waive the 2 readings.
All right, I'll move that we waive the 2 readings.
Do we have a second? So
Second that.
Mrs. Donahue seconds. So there's a motion to waive 2 readings of policy, the change in policy 2431. That is pending before the board right now. By Mrs. Sebastian and seconded by Mrs. Donahue. Whenever you have time to write all that. If you would call the vote, please.
Sure. Mrs. Sebastian?
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue?
Yes.
Mrs. Franz?
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Elam?
Yes.
Okay. So we've agreed to go ahead and make this what we would call a technical change. The change, I need a motion to make said change.
I'll motion that we change the 2.0 grade point average to 1.67 grade point average. within the policy.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll say.
Thank you, Mr. Elam. So the motion before us now is to in policy, board policy 2431, where it says 2.0 grade point average to change it to 1.67. By Mrs. Sebastian, seconded by Mr. Elam.
Mrs. Sebastian?
Yes.
Mr. Elam?
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue?
Yes.
Mrs. France?
Yes.
So that's current and now in line with our other athletic department policies. Both motions carried 5-0. Thank you, everyone, very much. Just seemed pretty protracted to do 2 readings on that. So I appreciate your cooperation and agreement there. Okay, moving on to annexation discussion. Item 9B. So under this, I think Mrs. Hagan, you said that we have received notice of a TIF resolution consideration from the Bethel Township Board of Trustees
Right.
last week.
Yes, we received it last week. You guys are, I think the township is having their meeting on April 12th. I will be unable to attend, as you all know, I'll be in Columbus at the OASBO conference. So I don't know if anybody else would like to attend, but yeah, I will not be able to attend that meeting, but this is on the new Carlisle, is it Scarf Road? Am I saying that correctly? Annexation that is happening. We haven't received any additional notices on the 260 acres for Heritage Trails 2.0, but I just wanted you to be aware that we have received that notice from Bethel Township's Board of Trustees.
Can I just clarify something?
Sure.
This is not related to the April 12th. The TIF is not related to the April 12th vote.
Okay.
So this is just, the trustees want to put TIFs on the properties that are in the line of fire for New Carlisle annexation. And ultimately, should it ever be used, then the school money would come out of that, CTC money would come out of that, and infrastructure improvements would come out of that. So that's what the resolution is for. So you guys don't really have to do anything other than.
Yeah, we just received the notice, right?
That's just part of the legal thing, is to notify the school.
And so I didn't see anything for us to read or do anything with, so it's gonna be my next question. What is before us?
So this is where we have 9C.
And there was anything in there about what percentage it is or any of that? Okay. All righty then. So questions, concerns? Yep.
I did have some things I wanted to add to the annexation
100%.
discussion.
Go for it.
And I didn't know Julie was gonna talk and share some of the information. And I didn't know Mr. Kiefer was gonna be here, so I apologize if this sounds redundant in any way. But I have been attending the New Carlisle City Council meetings the past 2. as well as the New Carlisle Planning and Zoning meeting. And that is part of what I wanted to talk about today. But I also want to bring up what Joy said. I don't want to forget this part, that she asked that we take up a resolution much like we did in the fall of 2021. And I don't want to forget that that we did that, and that we should consider as a board doing that again this time. I just wanted to share that opinion. Again, these are my thoughts. I'm just going to read them, but we have 2 annexation proposals that will affect Bethel schools, Carriage Trails 2.0, and I apologize if I've got this information wrong, 800 to 1,000 homes over the course of roughly 8 to 10 years. So I had 120 students per year based on that, but there's a new number. So I didn't take that into account based on what was shared today. Also, New Carlisle City, 292 homes. And when the developer was at the, that is a different developer, DDC Management, when they were at the planning and zoning meeting in New Carlisle, they estimated about 75 new homes a year. It'll take them about 4 years to build that out. So the first students could hit Bethel in January, early 2024. So it's not that far away. And the build out would happen by 2028. I just wanted to ask that as a board, we have to make some serious, we have to have some serious discussion and make some decisions on how we want to proceed with accepting those students per the current school district lines. And this affects the quality of life and in the township and the quality of our small rural school that we all appreciate and care about. Our small school, even as growing, will cease to exist as a small school if we simply do nothing. I wanted to put this out there. I know we haven't made it through the first community forum, but I'm wondering if we can consider having a community forum and asking them how they would like us to proceed with accepting the students, or should we work towards redistricting? With all due respect, every time annexation has been brought up for the past 10 to 12 years, I get nauseous, my stomach turns, my blood pressure goes through the roof, and it's a huge burden on a daily basis. I apologize to anybody who lives in Carriage Trails. I'm glad that you live there. We've had a wonderful chance to meet you. I can't think that it's benefited my life all too much other than the people that have come from there. And that's where I'm coming from here because of the, this is where, and Danny can attest to this too, this is where I was born and raised, lived all my life. And I hate to see the school lost to development. Let's face it, apologize again. If the students had to go to Huber Heights homes, I don't know how many homes you would be able to sell. Obviously, Bethel is a great selling factor for you, as well as the community development that's being proposed up north. It's all about the school. Well, we're losing that. And it won't be the small school that everybody originally moved back to town for, if we ever left. So I just say that, I mean, no disrespect, but that's just how it is. But as a school board, we should ask the community how they feel. And do we think about the 2 individual groups of the students? Because Carriage Trail students, just last fall, they were considering, some of the Huber council members were considering whether or not they would really rather have those students come to Huber. Now I realize it's a contiguous area there, but you know, it doesn't mean we just don't consider it. There might be something that we would want to move forward with. And again, the New Carlisle City, I was at a meeting where a gentleman spoke that he had called the superintendent that morning, and she said, yeah, they had been considering that they would really like to work and maybe get those students. So I don't want to say that that should be tossed out. We just as a board need to think about these things. And we also well, that would lead into, do we want to start a discussion with the state about looking at redistricting our school lines for the ORC rules and that 25 point checklist that I didn't get to review again today, but, and I know that usually when I read that before, I think that happens in the odd years. So 2023 is next year. If we want to consider this as a board, as a school district, is that something we don't want to miss that timeline? So I just want everybody to be thinking about it and looking out for that. Again, when the developers were at the New Carlisle City thing, I had thrown this out to the New Carlisle City manager and to the mayor in the meeting, and I directly asked the developers there, would they be considerate in setting land aside for those students? And I would say the same for, as Julie mentioned, for that Huber group. Again, like Julie said, it allows the students to stay local for walking. It helps us with our busing situation and our traffic consideration. It's a nice place to gather for the local kids. They can play in the playground, and it might be a good resolution. Again, I'd like to keep the focus of anything that we could ask for to, help with the educational part, because those kids are coming, whether we have a place to put them or not. It's either going to be more trailers, more money. And I know the new Carlisle City mayor said that we had been talking about trailers. He said he drove through, he said he didn't realize we were already had that many trailers behind the school. And so he's monitoring the new school district here. So I'm going to keep going back to those meetings. And when I go, I speak as a private Bethel Township resident, not as a school board member. And I just bring up everything else that I can to make them aware of the effect that this has on the community. And I also asked that developer, I know Mr. Keithler was asked about 8 to 10 years ago in a community forum in the gym about, could the developer assess a one-time fee to each new home sold that would come directly to the school to help pick in addition to the taxes and everything, so that we could, help to start a foundation for the new school buildings that will surely follow if we get this influx of students. So I just wanted the board to have a lot of information. I know several of you, we're here, you've lived it for a while, but it's just really important that we don't miss our opportunities now. Don't wait till too late, and get ahead of this as best we can, because we don't have a lot of time. If another group of 120 kids start coming from the north side in 2024, add that to what's going to be coming from the south, that puts us in some dire situations that we don't want to find ourselves in. So we need to be planning and thinking about that now. And if anybody would like to consider redistricting, now's the time to think about that as well. So I just wanted to share some of those things that I've learned from attending those meetings, and some of my own personal thoughts, but also where I think that we're going to have some real concerns in a really short time, because we already know that the new school building, that's not just barely getting the foundation laid. We're already maxed out. So we need to be really proactive here in a short amount of time. So thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much. Anyone else have comments to add, or?
That's a good question about that. I'm sorry. I know we're not supposed to talk, but is there a deadline for what you were talking about? Like when our community would need to talk?
Maybe like for the redistricting?
For the redistricting, or when we would need to have the community forum before the annexation took place?
Well, that's what we don't, I haven't taken any action on that to dig into that, other than looking on the ORC code. I don't know. And I figured as a board, we would need to decide to go talk to the state about that, or learn what that process is, because I'm not familiar with it. I don't know anybody who's actually gone through that, but
When's the annexation that New Glasgow?
Well, they haven't turned any paperwork in yet, but he made it sound like it was gonna be happening soon with the effect that, I mean, he was even able to share that we could have new students by early 2024 calendar year.
Thank you.
With the redistricting, I know you mentioned the 25 criteria and they're a little bit steep. It's a difficult process with the state to get approval for that. You had said you think it's odd years, and it's actually unfortunately it's even.
It's even.
Redistricting applications need to be filed by April 1st of even calendar years. So we just passed it. So the next one will be April 1st of 2024 is the next application date that has to be. So.
And just an additional on that, if we're talking 1,292 new homes possibility, if we're talking 1,000 and carriage trails, 292 and if allowed. If you assume 2.5 children per household, that's 3,230 possible kids. I know that's an estimation, but that's almost double what we have, the amount of students we have here already. So something else to think about.
Mr. Kiefler just said 0.42 per home, correct?
Yeah, and that's just actual data we have now, but I know on the state sides, they show that, but that comes back to us trying to develop not just straight single family, we're bringing in the senior homes, and so it doesn't impact it as much that way.
Yeah, and you have to remember too, you've got preschool age kids that aren't, so even though they count as children, they're not at our district until they're 5 or 6, so.
They will be though. That's
right,
how we got to where we are,
never-
not thinking it through. Go ahead.
I've looked at this data for years. And I know it was 0.6 to 0.8. I would take Mr. Keith's word if he's got the data.
We have children in trailers now. When we built this building, it was already too small. Looking at the data and assuming that the preschoolers aren't going to eventually be here is ludicrous. Of course it matters if they're preschoolers, they're going to end up here.
Well, of course, but we also have juniors and seniors who are going to graduate. It's not like everyone just comes and stays forever either. I mean, it's a cycle that we have to account for as well.
It's a lot of children, however you split it.
Yes,
It's a
agreed,
lot of
absolutely
children
understand,
that
but
this
it's
building
not a
and the
static number.
trailers we have cannot handle.
Yeah, we do understand. We absolutely do understand.
So on
But the redistricting is a process. Absolutely is a process. That's all I'm trying to say. It's quite a process, and those 25 criteria are really in depth, and it's
And I would
quite a
advise,
hurdle for someone.
yeah, I would advise we get more information. And consult.
I just wanted to say on the 0.4, just keep in mind that New Carlisle is building straight. Their
Yeah.
plan is to build straight single family homes. And I think what we kind of figured on that is probably closer to what Lori said. That might be like
Might be 1.2,
per
but
house.
they're normally not over 1.2. And I mean, I'm not trying to argue with anybody here. I'm just telling you, I've looked at the data and because people also send their children to private schools or they homeschool.
And I understand that, but we've looked at the data over all of these years and we still have children in trailers. And when we finished this building, we were already outgrown. So I'm saying, don't look here at the data, look here at the data. So when we build another new building, we don't have to automatically start building one on top of that because we didn't think far enough ahead.
It's not a matter of thinking far enough ahead. It's when the money from the state becomes available.
Then don't accept the children into the school building if
You don't know if Huber Heights or New Carlisle will even accept these students or if the state will accept their application.
And what we're
There's a lot of
saying is,
process.
all of that should be decided before we agree to anything, and it feels like where we are now, that type of thing wasn't looked into enough. Or we wouldn't be having children in trailers. Period. You can argue it back and forth, but we have a building problem and a space problem currently. There's no denying that, we have children in trailers. It wasn't thought through thoroughly enough.
We built with the money we had available. I'm sorry you have that opinion. I've
It's
been
not an
involved
opinion,
for
there's
10
trailers
years.
in there.
And we've done as good a job as we can. And I know some of you don't think that, but it's really upsetting to me to have spent 10 years working with this district primarily as a volunteer and get told I don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm not saying you don't know what you're talking about. I'm saying look further ahead down the line for this next expansion.
Okay. We need to.
Well, can I make a motion that?
The point is taken for sure. I'm sorry. No, I'm not trying to cut you off. I'm just saying, I mean, the point is absolutely taken and we have tried to look ahead. We really have, but you still only have so much money you can spend on the building, which only allows you so much space. And Unfortunately, often, we hate to say it comes down to money, but often it comes down to money. You only have so much money to spend to allow so much size. There's OFCC restrictions that demand that certain things be in place, which takes up money. Then you have things like COVID hit that have more restrictions where you have to start cutting back. You can't afford the things you had planned in the first place. We have been under a lot of restrictions to try and afford things we've been trying to afford with this building, even as it is. And then we have to wait for the money to come back from the state on that building to try and build the next building, and so on and so forth. It is a process to try and get the funding. When a student shows up and you don't get money from property taxes or whatever for 18 months, you know, often before we're already paying for that student to be in the district, we're getting 4,500, probably hopefully by the time everything shakes out with the state per student, and we're spending 9,800 per student. So we're in the hole until that money comes. And taxes, obviously, we know none of us pay enough money per household to make up that difference either anyway. So, you know, it's school funding is an amazing issue all the way around, no matter how we slice it. And paying for these buildings is, you know, honestly, thank goodness. I know people do not care for carriage trails, but thank goodness at the moment that we do have that TIF income coming in, because it is helping us afford the expansion in the building we're having right now. It's not great, but we were open enrolling a lot of those students before. And we probably would have been doing that anyway, even if we hadn't taken it on. So, you know, it's just complicated. The finance is complicated. It's really complicated.
And I will say one more thing. I know we've said it before, but I know of no other district in the state of Ohio that has not gone back to taxpayer and building a $32 million building in an athletic stadium of that size. That's our size district. And I guess if anything, I would ask of residents is maybe give some gratitude to your board members and the people who've worked the last 10, 15 years on the projects instead of criticism. Thank you.
Natalie, I kind of cut you off and I apologize for that. What were you going to say?
That's okay. Regroup back to that. So as this current board, we have some decisions to make. I still feel that there are things that we can still do. And one of those is a resolution like we did in the fall, or like the board, previous board did in the fall. And I know it would be needed by the April 14th meeting. And I think that would require at this point, because we don't have our meeting until April 18th, a special meeting, if we were going to do that. And so I don't know if I make a motion for that. I'm not sure to go forward with that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we need to have something to, we would have to have the wording before we have a motion.
Well, we have wording.
We do. It probably needs to be changed or amended or updated, or revised, right?
Right.
You know, we can definitely work with our attorney to, you know, put something together for sure. That's not hard.
I mean, we have a good foundation of a document already that would need some review and perhaps some editing, but it's something that we can look at. And I don't know if I make a resolution, but I make a motion to that the board create a resolution. Not sure how that was stated before. I'm thinking back. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we need anything that generally we don't do anything that complicated. Usually we just look at our calendars and see if folks are available and kind of set a date, and then we just get it together by that time and make sure everybody sees it and has time to think about it before that day. I mean, I don't. Doesn't need to be
for special meeting.
Yeah,
and the purpose.
we figure out the date first, right?
Right.
So everybody have their calendars available to look at when they might be available between now and then. And you said it's the 14th that we need to have it.
The 14th is when they're voting.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
For the petitions.
We don't need that.
Yeah, I'll send you that. I know Tina's gonna be gone, but
Yeah, we don't have to, we just want to do this, but having to the issues is the 14th of April. Yes, April 14th.
Oh,
Tina, is it okay if we can probably do it on the 11th maybe?
same,
Since it's just the same
line, you know, these are commissioners. About the annexation. It's the same.
You would
thing.
still have to appoint a treasurer because I won't be here.
Yeah, I mean, that sometimes.
That's not bad. So today's the 5th, so I must be doing the 27th or 8th. I'm out until the 13th.
This Thursday,
You guys can still meet without.
Can we get it together on Thursday?
I have work calls and Thursday with student meetings. I mean, I'm not driving.
No, I mean, and it's for me, it's gotta be too.
It's just easy to make sure. It's what involves the last one.
Next week.
I mean, I'm out of town.
Tuesday or Wednesday, but. This is Monday.
I know that was like a story or something.
There's some stuff. I can't do all the tea. I just anticipated that every week because we use our meetings, so I made appointments with my mom and stuff. I can absolutely get the resolution together and I don't necessarily have to be at the meeting for it. Like that's something I have to be a part of once the resolution is put together. I can provide the document and just work with John to get it ready. That I can absolutely do. If the meeting has to be that following week, I apologize. I'm actually not available Wednesday or Thursday this week. So Friday's in. Well, it can't be nighttime because we need to, so.
Well, I'm available any day. Friday of this week,
As long as it's not nighttime.
as long as we can get the resolution.
Yeah, I can get it done, which is obviously gonna be a big push, because I already checked John's calendar.
Can we do it, could we do it at 3 or is that too late time?
I can do anytime from 3:30 to.
Do you want to do 3:30?
Sure.
Friday, 3:30.
Is that okay? Because that would really help me.
I mean, pending, obviously pending Mr. Pegursky. Sure. I can't speak for his calendar this week, so.
Well, it should be.
It should be. It should be.
So 3:30 p.m. Friday day.
Is that enough time?
We're gonna schedule a special meeting on
I'll be available here for that.
at 3:30 p.m. on April 8th.
Has anybody looked at the old resolution that, as they would like to amend or already have suggestions? I'm sorry, I just,
Did you have the resolution? Did you look at the old resolution? Like I haven't,
Does anyone have suggested changes from the old one already?
Remembering what it was, I don't think. There might be just one other one, but I'll have to look at it again to make sure.
I have not looked at it yet.
Because I was gonna say Jessica hasn't looked at it and I remember a draft and I don't want to get them confused, you know?
Sure.
No,
Can you send that out first thing in the morning?
Yeah.
To give to the board and Delilah so she can get John on it.
I have it. If anyone has any thoughts on it, I just want to be sure everyone gets those.
We just need the addresses.
Okay. Okay. All righty. Anything further on our annexation discussion? We need to vote on this. Yes, okay. So to have this special meeting, we're gonna need a motion to have a special meeting on Friday, April 8th at 3:30 p.m.
I'll make a motion to have a special meeting on April 8th at 3:30 p.m. on the resolution for.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it said before. It said resolution.
Is there a second?
I can second that.
Mrs. France?
Mrs. Sebastian,
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mr. Elon,
Yes.
Mrs. France,
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue.
Yes.
All right. Get with Mr. Peterson. As soon as possible. Thank you, everyone, for that. Okay, item C under 9 was added by Mrs. Franz, so you take the lead on this one, discussion about community forum.
Okay, so just going back over the timeline. So we're all kind of on the same page. February 14th, we initially had the discussion of the community forum. We all decided at that time to move forward with the community forum. We threw out suggestions for different speakers that we might invite to attend. We agreed that we would have attorneys from both sides of the issue represented. Fast forward to our last March board meeting, we took a vote to continue with the community forum. 3-2 vote moving forward. Danny and I were in contact probably a week since that last meeting. And I said, have you heard from the speaker? I think he went and talked with a gentleman. At that time, you had still said that Mr. John Pedersky was able to attend.
Correct.
And Danny had, and oh, by the way, I was under the impression the whole time that he's relaying all of this back to you, the board. So that was my conversation with you. I think, are you talking with Lighter and Lori? And I think we had talked about that. So my impression was that the two of us were handling the community forum and then passing along any information about speakers to the rest of the board. We had all discussed as a board, I think Danny had called each one of you individually about 29th or the 31st. And I know my speakers since 3 weeks after February 14th meeting had said that they could attend on either date. And then it came down to, and I think I communicated this with you, that Thursday was going to be the better day, Thursday, the March 31st. So that was kind of the date that I had in my mind. And then you had said that Mr. Pedersky could attend either day. And then a week before, this would have been what, the 21st, March, Monday, 21st, when we spoke. You had said that Mr. Pedersky now could not attend, brought up maybe having it online. I said, I don't think that's going to work. We've heard from the community since the beginning that they definitely want an in-person forum, not looking for something online. And with our media issues, I think unfortunately, we don't have a lot of goodwill right now with our media situation. We'd actually be able to have something that people at home could hear. So I guess I want to make sure, because I'm still hearing from many in the community that this forum is important to them. I had my speakers lined up. For all I knew, Mr. Pedersky was able to attend, and then he suddenly couldn't attend, and then the forum was, no longer. So I guess moving forward, I think we need to establish a date, in-person location, our speakers, and if one speaker decides to pull out a week ahead or before the time, oh well, we have to move forward with who has already committed to being there. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I want to make sure that we get a date for that and that we get it done.
Well, at the time, we had no speakers on our side. We had no speakers. Mr. Becker, I've already said some of these in the last board meeting. State board member, Mr. Tony Palmer of the Ohio Department of Education, Lori Stewart, the Title IX coordinator that I spoke about in the school in Leary, Bronston McCord, who's another of our attorneys, who's unavailable for those, for either of those. I also spoke to And I'm not sure what office his is, which kind of judge he is, but Jeffrey Wellbaum. And he said he would not be able to attend anything like that.
Right.
I've called the Title IX office at Wright State University. At least twice, they would not get back to me. The University of Dayton, the same thing. I've spoken to Mr. Tony Kendall, the district attorney of Miami County, who also said he would not help us. So these are why. And when we originally were speaking about this, we were talking about not having just attorneys' opinions going back and forth. We were talking about trying to find someone who was in the government who could speak factually and with some reputation, if you will. And I have been unable to find anyone like that. And again, with the media problems that occur in the cafeteria, it was brought up that perhaps we should do it in here where everyone can hear. I assume that everyone can hear. I know that I can when we're having a meeting in here.
Right. I think it was
We
more.
would have pre-selected questions.
Yeah.
From both sides, whoever, we also bring our questions and even send them to our people.
Yeah, I think it was more than just the media issue. I think they wanted to be able to be physically present as they have in the past with community forums that they've had. That's kind of the expectation. And we talked about having a moderator, and then I suggested maybe having a second moderator so it could go more smoothly. We can bounce back and forth so that one moderator can handle one half of the room, the other moderator could handle the other half of the room. And then we still have the selected questions beforehand that we talked about. We've done that. And then we also talked about, maybe having the moderators taking the mic around and taking questions as well.
I don't really see I mean, I don't know that it was up to me, but I don't see the advantage of having two moderators. Somebody that reads a question, I mean, anybody.
I guess it would
can
depend on the
can read a
size.
question.
So it depend on if we had it in person and then the amount of people that we would have. Then it would maybe make sense to have two moderators. If we had a smaller group, then yeah, maybe it would make sense just to have the one moderator. Now, I know you had talked to me about at one time, we had both agreed on the state school board member at the onset. And then as time went on, you said maybe not having a state school board member. And I think we kind of disagreed on that because I did see the value of having a state school board member here. I know you spoke with Charlotte McGuire. She was not able to make it. I had three other board members, or two, I think at the time when we initially spoke. Unfortunately, they had meetings, but then I had a third state school board member who said that he could come. So we did have this, and then I think you would come back and said, since only John was going to be able to make it, maybe I needed to have less speakers. So at that time, I think I would have worked with you. Maybe I could have had one attorney, you could have had John, and then we would have had our state school board member. Yeah, ideally, it would have been nice to have had more speakers, but you can only do what you can do. You did your due diligence of asking, people to attend. They were not wanting to attend or could not attend. And so, we have to work with what we have at that point. So, and I was under the impression, again, until just last week or so, that John was going to be able to make either date. So.
Well, I was as well. It was also suggested that we limit it, and I fully agree that we limit it to an hour. Look here, we've already been here 3 hours tonight. How many hours have we already heard from the public in our last two business meetings? I know you wanted to go for 2 hours. People stop listening.
Well, again, it would depend on the speakers we could get. If we had 4, which I was thinking of at the time, and give them maybe 15 minutes each, that could have said, an hour, and then we'd have an hour for questions. That seems reasonable with that number of speakers that we'd have at the time. But with less speakers, that would mean less time.
Well,
So
the speakers were supposed to be only answering questions. Correct?
I thought they were gonna
supposed to-
introduce themselves,
Well,
and say
yeah.
something, you know.
Yeah,
say
we were, I said, let's allow 10 minutes for introductions
Right,
and so,
right.
so on and so forth. Begin with the questions, say we're going to cut it off in an hour. And that's,
Yeah, I just couldn't see how we could get that done in an hour.
well, we have one subject. One subject for this. I didn't see that. I didn't see the need to go for more than an hour.
Yeah, I'm comparing it to other town halls and community forums I've been to, and they usually average an hour and a half to 2 hours.
I've never been.
Because you don't want to rush through your speakers, and you do want to give them 10 minutes, and nothing ever starts on time, so you have to have a cushion. So of time, but yeah, from my perspective, an hour and a half even, or to 2 hours, 2 hours max. I agree that not going over 2 hours is 2 hours should be a sufficient amount of time. So I guess,
I mean,
moving on from
kind
here.
of- you
I'm
kind
not
of
sure
jump
where
from
we go
like
from
topic
there.
to topic to topic to topic within this topic. So I just want to ask a question. And
Sure.
you know, when Danny started describing this, he had talked about how our scope originally was that it was going to be the idea of bringing in essentially, you know, government folks or unbiased third parties was the original kind of idea, that we would have people, you know, have non-invested people that we could ask questions of. That was the idea. And now it kind of seems like the conversation wants to be, you know, like attorney to attorney, or kind of like relitigating this whole concept of, you know, do we or don't we? So what are we talking about here? Are we like, what is the purpose? If we can establish the purpose, I think we might be able to move forward and have a commitment to what we're going to actually do and who's going to be there and what's going to happen. Because if we can commit that we are, you know, not here to debate the legalities, but the implementation of what's going on, then I think that's something we might be able to productively move forward with.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what's happening is we're working backwards here. So what we should have done from the onset, we're doing it. So we should have opened this up to the community before any kind of decision was ever made about this issue. So
I'm going to have to disagree there, because what we've done so far is provide an accommodation to a student that is very similar to an ADA accommodation or an IEP. And there are many schools who do this without ever even bringing it to the board in the first place. So the fact that this was brought to us legally is not even something that had to happen. The fact that the board brought this to the public is something that didn't even legally have to happen. So we have been, you know, going back and forth. I think a lot of the community and everyone is talking about whether it's legal or not legal. And, you know, we got our legal advice. Again, it didn't even have to come to the board. It could have just proceeded as it needed to proceed on as a district business situation. So for the community forum, I think if we could have a discussion and agree that the discussion can be more about the implementation of how we can do it and what needs to go there, then maybe that's a discussion that's worth having. And not have, you know, lawyer versus lawyer about Title IX and Title VII and all that kind of stuff. Like I feel that a lot of us on the board are very comfortable with the legal advice we've received, and having a discussion and a back and forth about that would not be productive. But conversation about the implementation of what's going on, I think, would be quite productive, and we all could engage in that in a positive way. That's my opinion.
I do hear what you're saying, but going back to the February 14th, very beginning, when we discussed this publicly, we decided because there was, it is a very controversial issue. And I would have to disagree with you about, I have called up the different schools in the district and talked with the superintendents and talked with their communications director. They have not, it's not apples to apples. They have not faced the situation, and I'm trying to not say too much because I want to protect privacy. But the situation that they have dealt with is certainly not apples to apples with what we have dealt with. That's clear. They are making accommodations as we were, and as we are required to do by the law. So again, going back to February 14th, because we made this decision. Well, yeah, I guess part of the former board made the decision, and no, I'm going to be clear about that. The superintendent made the decision, the board supported the decision,
And then you read at our first board meeting, kind of I think you referred to it at the time as a stance or whatever you will, but that was for the district.
Not my shining moment, sure.
So we did discuss at that February 14th board meeting, having both sides of the issue discussed, which I think is healthy because if you're saying this is a law, we have to follow it, this is what we have to do, then let the community have the opportunity to ask our attorney those questions. Why do we have to do it? Yeah, what are you, and then again, the frequently asked questions. If they want to ask things about that document, that should be addressed then, because John was the one to look over that document that came from Troy. But, Mr. Burks had said he was the one to look over the document, make suggestions. So I think he needs to stand before the community and have an opportunity to answer questions about that document, why it's sufficient, why nothing else is needed. Because I think there's a lot of concerns that this is not enough. Like, there needs to be more. So, and I think those discussions need to be had. And then there is, whether the board wants to admit it or not, there is a whole other side of this issue that says, no, you absolutely don't have to do that. This is not something that your school district has to do. So I think that's fair for the community to also hear that. And I think what we have been able to agree on, well, unless that's changed, is the state school board member. It's been a great idea because they have the bird's eye view. They're involved with policy making. They make suggestions to the General Assembly about, based on what they're seeing, what they're hearing in their district. So I think they have a much larger vision, definitely have a more, a lot more responsibility as far as a lot more territory they're covering. And these issues come to them. And I think that they could be an invaluable resource to speak to that. Now they're not giving legal advice. The state school board people that I've spoken to, I've been clear and they understand it. They're not an attorney. They're not there to give legal advice. They're not taking any questions. So if a question that was directed to them, and of course the moderator would help with this, they wouldn't give them a question that was a legal question, that would go to the attorney. But they're there to just kind of give an idea about what's going on, talk about legislation, talk about what they're seeing in the state of Ohio regarding this issue. So that's, that would be 3 speakers. It would have been nice if you could have found a judge, but I understand why they can't speak to that. I understand why someone from Ohio Department of Education is not going to want to speak to that. I do understand the reasons. And I think that's also something to think about.
Even try to contact
Right.
several people.
But I think that's something that we need to ask ourselves why is it so hard to find people to come and speak to this issue? Because it's not well settled, because if it was, they'd have no problem coming and speaking to it.
Well, I think some of the answers have said that they represent people who would be litigants who would actually bring cases against our district. I think that's why they're not willing
Well,
to come
the judge,
and
for
speak
sure.
with us.
Yeah,
So
the attorney,
I
some of the
think that
attorneys, yes.
it's not that it's not well settled, it's that they actually represent people who would bring a case against us. That's what their job is, and that's who they represent.
But
That's what they
he
clearly
spoke
said.
to a variety of individuals. They weren't all judges or attorneys.
No, for sure.
But to a man almost, they all asked me, have you not gotten counsel from your school attorney? Yes, we have. But I'm trying to find people who are not on our payroll because that's what we said.
Right, but
You're
they've
paying these people
also,
to say this.
yeah, they've also asked us about Title IX policy, if we followed it, if we followed our own policy, do we have a policy in place? We've been asked that. And so I think you probably shared what they have shared as the policy here, that it's being tucked under the non-discrimination. You probably shared that. But I think some of them have said, no, we want a policy that's specific to the transgender issue. That's what they're looking for. And we don't have that. That's something that we don't.
Who is asked for the transgender policy?
People I have spoken to.
And
Yeah.
are you familiar with any public school district that has such a policy in Ohio?
A specific transgender policy?
Correct.
No, not a bathroom policy, no. Because they're not dealing with this issue. The schools that I have spoken to have not had this, like I said, trying to protect privacy, haven't had the apples to apples situation. Without spelling it out, and again, I can't spell it out, but no, I called them. I've called 6 districts. They haven't had this
And if the
It's
district
specific
was
situation.
faced with the situation, my guess is their attorneys would instruct them
Tell
exactly
them the
how they
same thing.
instruct
I'm not
us.
into guessing. I'm into following the statutory law. And in Ohio, we don't have a law that says that we have to, there's no basis for discrimination based on gender identity.
There is federal law in Title
There's federal
IX.
guidance. There's
Title IX
guidance.
specifically from the US Department of Education specifically states that transgender students are covered under the non-discrimination, under Title IX, and then our non-discrimination policy also has that. Are you suggesting we make a policy change, Jessica?
Am I suggesting we make a policy change?
That's what I'm asking you.
Maybe that's something that we could discuss, but I already suggested that we, that
Well,
early
you
on.
can't pass a bathroom policy with our current non-discrimination policy. So that's what I'm asking you.
Make a Neola policy change? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, you would have to change our non-discrimination policy to even pursue your bathroom policy. So I'm asking you if you would like to change the non-discrimination policy, because we would be in violation of our current non-discrimination policy, and we would be in violation of Title. So are you proposing
I don't
changes to-
agree with that because we've made an accommodation. We have followed Title IX. So the accommodation has been made. That's what's required of our district. And that is what we have done. Yeah. No. Right, we made an accommodation for the student. Right. But not what you guys, we're not on the same page with this. I think you know what I'm talking about. So I'm not playing word games here. When I talk about making accommodation, I'm talking about the original accommodation that was made, not the one that was made in whenever it was, January, and announced here and read it before. So we can go back and forth on this all night. I don't know that anybody wants to stay for another hour. We could. But we still have, I think, other business to get to. But I think coming back to the point is this board willing to move forward with a community forum? And it looks like we're only going to be able to have 3 speakers. So if we can get John Podersky or Mr. McCord, maybe both of them. Mr. McCord, I don't think was contacted until after February or March 14th, so he didn't have a lot of time. Mr. Podersky was contacted early
Well,
on.
he was out of town.
But I'd asked you to contact him a long time ago. And for some reason you didn't.
Would that have mattered?
Maybe, I mean, I don't know how far advanced he
He was
makes
going-
vacation plans,
He went to
but,
Florida.
but why didn't he contact him when you contacted John Podersky? I mean, I think that's a good
I called
question to
plenty of
ask.
people. I called plenty of people that
But when,
did.
but you
Just
told
because
me,
you
but
suggested
you
me to call
told
them.
me that you were having trouble finding attorneys, right? You were having trouble finding people, so I
People,
suggested,
that's correct.
have you contacted our other retained attorney, Mr. Bronston McCord?
And I did.
And but after March 14th.
Why does that matter?
I'm pointing that out because you're telling me you don't have speakers, but yet
We
we're only
had,
giving
I
them 2
had,
weeks
I
notice.
had one of our attorneys
Okay,
already.
okay, so we had John, but then we didn't have John. So.
You
our-
didn't want him.
No, I did not.
You wanted Mr. McCord, I
Right.
know.
So that's
You did not
why
want
at the
Mr.
March,
Mr. Podersky.
that's why at the last board meeting, I said,
Why? I
since
don't
you're
know.
having,
I don't know
I'll
why.
tell you
did.
why. Because Mr. Podersky gave us his unsolicited personal opinion on this issue, which was totally inappropriate. And I have a vote of no confidence for Mr. Podersky because nobody asked him for his personal opinion on this issue. That was totally unprofessional. And if it was up to me, we call for a vote of no confidence for Mr. Podersky and we find another attorney. But in speaking with Mr. McCord, he maintained professionalism, never gave me his unwanted, unsolicited personal views on this. And so I said, have you contacted Mr. Bronson McCord? You didn't really say whether you had or not until after March 14th, when you had contacted him and you already had made vacation plans. So he can't come. Well, what I'm asking now, water under the bridge. What I'm asking now is if he could come, if Mr. John Podersky could come, if the 2 individuals that I have are willing to come, and if we have a state school board member, is that sufficient criteria for this board to move forward with a community forum? Or let's say we can only get 1 school board attorney to come, either John or Bronston. I can get one attorney to come, if that's all I'm allowed, I don't know. And a state school board member, is that sufficient? So what's it gonna be? But let's have it out. Let's either get this done, like we said we were gonna do, or let the community have their own, because that's really where we're at.
That was, I had read it, that was done in Troy,
What was done, Joe?
a community forum that was led by
Okay.
the community.
On this issue?
I've seen, yes,
Okay.
yes, I've seen that.
Okay. Well, let's do it.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't be speaking, but can you quote the results of that meeting you heard about?
No, sir, no, Jeff.
Okay, I didn't.
I know that you can go back and listen to the tape of the February 14th meeting and know that at no point in time did I say that it was going to be attorney versus attorney, people talking about all the legalities, and it's going to be where you could ask questions of non-invested, third-party, unbiased people.
You can't go back and listen to it because the audio was terrible. We've tried, we've
I
tried.
could hear it.
Again,
I
this-
clearly
this-
did.
Danny went back because he didn't
So-
believe that I was, when I said that, he was like, really, is that what you said? Because he's heard from so many people that that's not what was proposed when I originally proposed it. And he went back and listened.
This
Danny?
is where we're at. I
What did
just
I
Certainly
said,
did.
this is
Certainly
where
did.
we're at. I just proposed what I'm thinking of as a.
But that's not what was
what I'm
originally
being told
proposed,
the
and that is
community.
not what I
So
believe
what
is
is
in
it,
the
like,
best,
what's
in my
your idea?
opinion.
Go
I
ahead,
don't
tell
believe
me,
that's what's in the
please.
best, in the interest of the district. I
What
think
is-
if you cannot find these unbiased third parties, look, no one trusts our attorney because they just don't. They feel like they're on our payroll. I think in the community, I think there's a large component of the community who thinks that he's given us bad advice. Clearly, you think, what you just said, you gave unsolicited
That's
opinion,
why I
you were
asked
calling
you
for a vote of no confidence,
contact
right?
Austin before, yeah.
Right, so, I mean, I think, they say you're a school board attorney or whatever, I think people go, whatever. And I think that, if other people are not, as a practicing law, if their specialty is not school board law, I'm not sure I care what they say. If they're, I don't know,
One of my
bankruptcy
attorneys
attorney
is
or whatever.
One of my attorneys does have, he's an attorney for Cedarville University. He was also an attorney for University of Dayton for some time. So I gave you those names.
Yes,
last
but is he a
week. You
school
guys
board
asked
attorney?
me.
But is he a school board attorney? Is he a part of the Ohio School Board Attorney Association?
Was that part of the criteria that we
Well, I mean,
originally
I feel like
discussed on?
you're just
February?
asking me
Because
what
the
is it
terms
you
and
want. I'm just
conditions
talking-
keep changing.
I'm just
February
trying to answer the
14th, we
question.
were gonna have, you threw out ideas for
Just trying to
speakers.
answer the question.
I
Yes.
threw out ideas for speakers, and I'm trying to answer your question.
What you're
Yeah.
interrupting my response. Okay, if I could just
Oh,
finish,
finish.
okay?
By all means.
So for the unbiased third parties, no one wants to hear our attorney. And like I said, I'm not sure that there's another large component of the community who I don't think is interested in hearing attorneys who their specialty is not school board law. So if we can't find unbiased third parties who can actually just speak to how a case would roll through the courts if one was brought to the district, what the impact to us could be and how that process would work, which was what I originally proposed, then I do not think I see the value unless we would talk about perhaps the implementation and clarify the implementation of it within our own district. What are we going to do there? That I believe we can have some value and move forward with. If that is the scope, then I think, yes, we can have our attorneys. You can have an attorney, possibly not the one who works for the Center for Christian Virtue, even though he did used to work for Cedarville. I don't think that, so I've also heard from our community that they don't want people who are biased on either side. I assume either side. They told me they don't want biased people on, the transgender and Equality Ohio side. So I assume that would apply to both sides.
I also have a private attorney if you would have a problem with John Hurt. So
I just feel like that's only fair. That there aren't biases on either side. I think we're looking for as unbiased as we possibly can get. So if there's an attorney on, the school board side, great. If there is an attorney on the other side that is not working for some other, organization that's a biased group, I think that would be reasonable and fair. But we need to start talking about, I think, the implementation, because that is where the sticking point at this point is. I don't think we're going to see movement on the legalities, and I don't think that's productive or helpful for our community to keep going back and forth on the legalities of it.
So again,
I mean,
that's-
unless you want to call a motion on whether we're gonna, reverse our policy and like revise and rewrite our
I called a
actual
motion
Neola
last
policy.
time to move forward with the forum.
I
Based on
understand.
what I.
I understand. I'm trying to talk about how we should do that.
Which, you have a different idea of what those original terms were, obviously, than what I did.
Listen to the
So
meeting.
at that board meeting, we discussed having attorneys from both sides, on both sides of this.
You asked if you could have an attorney, and I said yes, and then you turned it into 3 or
And
4 people.
And I also said from representing both sides of the issue, and that's what I said. And so we have attorneys representing, speaking to both sides of the issue. Sure. We have a state school board person. So again, are we going to move forward with these individuals? There may only be 3 with an in-person community forum. Or not.
Well, I mean, in person, clearly the sound is not good in Bethel Hall. If we did in person, it would need to be in here because that's the only place in person works. And how many people is that anyway? So why could we not do it over Zoom with people on YouTube able to hear everything, where you can still submit rebuttal comments and have the questions submitted in advance? Why is that an issue?
And I do disagree with you. Going back to the earlier point that you made, I think that people do want to hear from the school board attorney. Because that's whose advice this board's following, right? So I am not going to say that the community does not want to hear from our school board attorney. I think they do. I think they want to ask questions. I think they want to have the opportunity that they were denied. So let's give it to them. Let's let them have the opportunity to ask those questions they never had the chance to ask. Give them the opportunity to ask about that transgender frequently asked question document. Let them ask. Right?
Submit questions in advance, and we can have people in this room where you can actually hear things that are said.
In person or online, what are we talking about right now?
Online.
Oh, no. I think that's a mistake.
Because otherwise, we can't hear anything in Bethel Hall. Everyone knows you can't hear anything in Bethel Hall, but you can hear in here.
And
How
the
many people
district
can we
has
fit
known
in
about
here?
this
You
problem
can't
since
fit
the
that many.
candidates forum. Why isn't it fixed? Why is he sitting here talking to me about laptops and not about how he's fixing the media?
I don't know if I'm not a supervisor.
Well, that's a question I'd like to ask, and if you're still here, maybe I'll send that in an email. But come on, you've known for how many months? Let's get it fixed. This is ridiculous. This is disrespectful to the community.
I have no.
Can I break one more law? Can I
Can
break one more law?
I beg your
I
pardon?
was at a meeting when they were deciding to build the very part of this building that we were sitting in the gymnasium. They passed around microphones. I can hear everything. I voted for the levies. You can get people in there. The community is very distraught over this. You all are distraught amongst yourselves. We need to figure out something to make this work where it is fair for everybody. And the stuff that I'm reading online and on these questions that are asked, it's not fair for everybody. And it can be, but we are vested in this. It's the second meeting I've been to. First one was vote, we give y'all money to build this nice library. Thank you, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Thank you for your support.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I shared that levy back in 2014, so I appreciate that. Seriously, and I do mean that very seriously.
Say it again.
I said I appreciate, because I shared that levy, and I said I would continue to thank people until the day I died. It was a large levy.
To be fair, I haven't voted for every one of them, but we needed that one, for sure.
We did. We had lots of trailers on the front lawn.
You can't get enough people in this room that are going to be standing outside. It's a very touchy subject. I ain't got any kids in this race, but just one more sentence. Saying that my granddaughter that could be coming here someday has to share a bathroom with somebody that has something she don't, that really bothers me. There's got to be another way to make it work where it's fair to everyone. I'm just saying.
It's not the law in Ohio.
Thank you. Sorry, I really apologize. Sorry, Danny.
No problem. Glad you're here.
Yeah.
I just think that for folks to have an open and honest, these professionals that we're bringing in to have a conversation amongst themselves, You know, I don't think you can have interruptions from the community. I think they need to be able to go back and forth between themselves and get it, you know, accomplished without interruption. I think that's important. I think we need to have the community be able to hear it. And the only way to accomplish that is in this particular room at this particular time in a guaranteed, I know it's going to work fashion. It works in here. We know it. It works.
It does. I just want to offer a suggestion. What if we were to have it in another location where we do have a microphone, at least one, where people walk up and talk, like, you know, that is what they do day in and day out. Not right off the top of my head. I was, yes, like a special center. I don't know, Erosion. I mean, I don't know what else is local that. Yeah. Or, I mean, I know a lot of places far down in Kettering, but I'm trying to think local here.
Well, I mean, I think at that point, I think you're starting to lend towards, you know, the community itself having something, because I mean, the district's already spent, I don't even know how much we spent in legal fees already. Just at this point, I don't know if I don't know if we need to spend money renting a hall. I don't think that's necessary when we have the solution right in front of us.
Well, what if private citizens rent a hall for the benefit?
Well, don't we have any other options? Like, what about the auditorium or the gym that he mentioned? Has-
So if this is gonna have to be called a board meeting, and I believe it does.
If you have more than 3 people in attendance, yes, you will have to have a board
Discussing
discussion.
board business, right?
So
I think it is a requirement that has to be ADA accessible now, and the auditorium is not ADA accessible.
Form of the board is 3. So if the board's gonna conduct any kind of business and have 3 members or more at the meeting, then it has to be advertised as a special meeting. Correct. It has to be in a location that's accessible.
How about the gym? Then? As you said, we used to have graduation year.
Well, we could hear in Bethel Hall. I don't know what the recording issue is, and I'm not sure that's gonna be solved in the gym. I mean, I don't know. I'm just telling you, all of us who were present in Bethel Hall could hear fine. And it was only because 2 people texted me during the meeting and said, hey, we can't hear you. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I mean,
And then the microphones start doing this thing, and that's like horrific. And frankly, that screeching microphone is just embarrassing when you're bringing professionals in from out in the public, not to mention our own public. It's just embarrassing. So, but it doesn't happen in here.
There's no mic.
There is. It's right there. And it works. I just
So
think.
I guess we either get the issue fixed in Bethel Hall where we can accommodate the number, or we move to the gym.
It's difficult to set a date when you don't know when that would be accomplished. So
maybe we should look at the gym.
I mean, how do we know the sound's gonna work in the gym any better than Bethel Hall? Bethel Hall is where we're doing the musical, and it works for that, but for some reason it doesn't work for our meetings. So it's something to do with somehow getting it online on YouTube, or I don't know what it is, but something in between there and that podium on the floor and us on the stage. I don't know what it is because I'm not a tech person, but it is not working. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, and I don't know how long it's gonna take someone to figure it out. I can't speak to that. I don't know. I don't know how it works. I don't know.
She doesn't, but it's second.
But we do have a solution sitting right here in front of us. If you want to move forward and set a date, that's the way to do it. Just saying.
Or an online. Great, online.
It's not the end of the world. And if the community wants to have another forum in another location, great. But this could work and it could be accomplished quickly.
What are your thoughts? Anybody else have any thoughts?
Well, I'm for meeting it here. I was having pre-selected questions. Having on both sides.
Talked
whatever
about it at
we talked
nauseam,
about
so
it,
I
sure.
know we figure that.
What about you?
And no,
I'll just say, when I listen to the school board meetings by YouTube, like at the start of the pandemic, I had questions, but it was not easy to, to submit those. If you're on your phone listening, yes, you could hear. It was hard to, you might see little pop-ups of what other people were typing in. It worked for the time. I don't know if it would work well for a larger audience. I think that could be troublesome as well.
Could I ask a question? Just my input about it being online. I noticed that you guys, for YouTube board meetings, you don't have the comment section open. So obviously the comment section would need to be open if it were online. And what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do when somebody says something you don't like and turn comments off? Now you're restricting our First Amendment rights to ask the questions that we, the community, get to ask at our community forum.
Comments are on YouTube right now.
they're on.
They have not been at every board meeting.
I haven't been running those board meetings,
I'm just letting you
but
know.
when they're in here, they're on.
If there are
So-
comments that are not turned on,
I
and
understand.
people cannot make comments or
I
ask
understand.
questions.
I
from
have
home.
never been one to turn them off, and nor would I.
I'm not accusing you of it.
I know, I'm
It's
just
just
saying,
my-
if it's in here, I can assure you they would not be turned off.
I
And
still.
that's for
online
the two moderators. I haven't thought about that. The two moderators, you could have two moderators. You could have one moderating the questions coming in online, or, to feed those in. And you could have a moderator in the room asking questions.
I thought we're not gonna have pre-selected questions.
So the pre-selected questions from a moderator in the room, delivering the questions to the people that are answering them. And you could have another moderator who's handling questions coming in online or
That's a good
follow-up
thought.
questions.
It's a good thought.
So I still vote no against an online, not that I get a vote, but I vote no as having our community forum online. Not.
That's not what was voted on at March meeting. We did not vote on an online community forum. So if you go back and change now, you're going against what you voted in March.
I don't know that the details were very clear at all.
Those
in March,
details were never discussed. It was just simply a community forum, and
And
It
how
was-
has every community forum ever been run here, Danny?
I don't know, I've never been to one.
You've never been to one?
Nope.
I've been to two here.
What were they concerning?
The first one was this building that was being built.
Levy, oh, I
No,
did come to one.
that was a community.
I came to a
forum.
levy committee meeting. one
No,
time.
it was in the gym. The builders was there. We was there asking questions. It was an open community meeting. And then the other one was about our previous superintendent, Mrs. Potter. You don't remember that one?
No,
Julie, do you remember that one?
I remember.
Oh,
that
yeah.
one.
Lori, you remember
It was
that
in the
one?
cafeteria.
Yeah. Natalie, you remember that one?
I'm
So do
sorry.
I. We had a very spirited community forum. So it can be done. And that's what our community.
Yeah, so we didn't video, we also didn't video any of those.
Nothing was ever videoed.
I mean, I'm just saying, it was different 5 years ago, 3 years ago. We didn't video it.
Well, why does that, it does not have to be online. That's not what we as a community want, and that's not what we thought 3 of you voted on in March.
What happens if you go against your own vote? Anything?
We would vote, we would re-vote if we decide if the decision or if we discuss tonight that we can't reach resolution and that it's gonna be done by the community rather than the board, we would have to re-vote.
The community wants to talk to you face to face and hear face to face. Because we've been asking for answers for 3 months. We do disagree with the policy and the stance that you made. We disagree with the opinion that your attorney gave you. Now, see, Lori, you asked for us to give you respect, and then you don't give us any respect back when you're sitting up there at that board meeting. You laugh all the time.
Put your head down in your hands, give us dirty looks, roll your eyes, the body language. Don't respect the other board members. If you want respect, you have to respect your community as well.
So are we deciding whether we're going to continue as a board to do the forum or whether this is going to now fall to the community to do it themselves? Is that where we're at? I think so.
You jump around pretty fair bit, so.
So I'm still at the place where I can only go by who's contacting me, you know. Community members and parents, stakeholders who are contacting me based on what, that's the feedback I can provide. Based on that, the feedback I can provide is hands down, they want an in-person community forum as they've had in the past. That's what they had in their mind. That's what they pictured. That's what they want. So as a board, I think that's what we need to be prepared to give them. If you're saying we can't do that in the gym for whatever reason, I still don't know why we can't do it in the gym. Okay.
Well, I don't think your problem is gonna be resolved. I think the same problem we have in the Bethel Hall is likely gonna happen in the gym. We've never had a forum in the gym recorded, to my knowledge. Donna, correct me if I'm
The
wrong.
very first one was for this building, it was in the gym.
Recorded
It was recorded?
on
Oh,
YouTube and put out.
recorded?
Yes.
They didn't do
Right.
that back then.
Right, well, I was just double checking. I didn't think it was.
They didn't record things.
That's the whole
So-
issue. Something's happening, we think with the recording, because we can all hear it when we're in person.
Right.
Have we ever tried this in the cafeteria? This is a pretty sensitive microphone. I mean, compared to what we seem to be using in there,
One problem with that is where are you gonna put it on the floor and shoot it up at an angle?
I don't know. Maybe you set a table out in the middle. I don't know. I'm just asking.
I feel like when they set that up, it had a limited square footage too.
We can take a look at it, I just don't.
But yeah, I don't know. I was just asking because it seems to be a pretty good microphone.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, though, some people can hear. But some people say they don't have a problem hearing from home, right? From Bethel Hall, they didn't have an issue while others did.
I think it was very soft.
There are some, yeah,
It was
some
very
of it is
soft.
Like they
very
had to have the
soft.
volume turned all the way up.
I turned it all the way up and it was like this with my headphones.
But the second meeting, I don't think they could hear it.
There, no,
Oh,
these-
barely.
no, yeah.
Yeah, the second meeting, it
They're
definitely.
right
On
about that.
microphone, and it
Might
just
be why.
depended on what section of the meeting, and apparently sound was out at different times, but.
And some of us, you couldn't hear, like, I don't remember. I have to go back and listen.
The reality is, if we are going to have a meeting, and now we put all of our meetings online, right? That's just what we do.
Right.
They're all online. If we are not gonna be able to ensure the integrity of the meeting, or all of them, I mean, we're kind of at jeopardy, right? We're at risk. When you put it out there and you have some people who cannot hear it, that's kind of a problem now, because
It
we're
is a
saying it's out
problem.
there
It's a
and
problem.
it's not out there.
Already had a gentleman speak at length at the last one. Using us
Right.
not-
I have a
not being able to
concern
hear.
about us moving forward with our meetings when people cannot hear it.
Just another suggestion. I don't know how the musical, in the past, I know they always recorded it, so are they recording those today? And
But
when you,
they record it to DVD, so they're using the
Correct.
camera.
Yep.
and filming it and putting it on
Yeah.
DVD or.
so is there a way to do that with a tape or a played relay? Or if we have to show it live, can it be a 5-second delay and read off the DVD?
I have no idea. That's a great question, but I don't know, and I don't know how we get comments and quickly enough if it doesn't work.
Yeah, and
Okay, that's
usually
the
you have to
concern.
record, it finishes, and then you upload that whole file. At
Right.
least that's been my experience, from
Right.
that limited knowledge I have.
Right.
So, yeah,
So I'm not sure, that's a great, but there's about a 5-second delay on our YouTube feed.
Yeah.
Now.
So this is a question that could be posed to Mr. Cook.
Yeah. It can be asked, but.
Yeah, we seriously need to
Yeah.
wrap this up, because, we have other business.
Correct.
Not trying to hurry us along, but.
Said, I mean, we've gone from scope to online to participants to link. I mean, we keep kind of going all over the place and we're jumping around a lot. It's kind of like when I try to clean my house and I go from room to room to room and then nothing gets done. So that's how I feel right now. So we need to just make some decisions and move forward, or we're moving this to the 18th to, you know, come with our final decisions or something. Like something has to happen here. So what are we doing? Someone make some proposals or make some decisions, or are we voting again? Like, what are we doing? One of five, each of us. We have to come to some consensus here.
I think we look at the Bethel Hall or the gym for an in-person forum, see if we can get Jason to get the media fixed.
And if he
If
can,
it's in Bethel Hall.
I mean, what timeline are we on?
We can ask him about if he can get it set up in the gym.
And what kind of a timeline? Because I mean, I'm sure if you give him like, you know, 3 or 4 months, I'm sure it'll be fine, but like, what kind of timeline do you want to say? If he doesn't have it by this time, then we move to online, or like, what are we doing?
Why don't we start with seeing if either of those physical locations, if he thinks there's a possibility of getting media.
And
That-
you need to remember, I'm just bringing this up because I've got emails. He's gonna have state testing, so that's their first priority, is making sure the kids have access, Chromebook access, and I mean, I'm just saying, I know the next,
dates for that.
it's from now until.
AP
I mean,
goes through.
There's a 6-week, I mean, this is their busy time,
Elementary.
like, maybe Aaron can speak to
It's also, they've already said, you've got, and of course, exams
So,
are online.
I'm not trying to, I'm just mentioning that because I got the notifications, don't take, you know.
So at this point, we're looking at towards the end of May, right? With that.
Unless we have it online in here, yeah.
So I guess we start there. We start on see if we can get a location here that where we can have people from home here, because that is important. I think that's something we can agree on.
So who says in person is mandatory? How many are on that ship? I mean, we have to get consensus. Okay,
You're asking-
out of these 5, please.
What was
I'm
the
sorry.
question again?
So if we have to wait to the end of May, how many of us are willing to wait to the end of May in order to have it in person?
I think
As
it's
opposed to
important have it in
how many
person.
would like to move ahead and have it online and get it done? That's what I think is important to establish, because we need to like get a timeline on this, and then we can figure out next steps.
I'm so sorry, I apologize. I just have a question.
Yes, sir.
You have to video it if it's official, right?
We don't have to, but
We
that's.
started it during COVID, and it's been a
Precedent.
been a
I mean, I would
courtesy.
agree that's the precedent.
Yes, sir.
Could you? I'm a workaround guy. Could you do it unofficially, but y'all just be there where it's not board directed or whatever, and there's a mediator, and you can at least get a feel. I mean, this is the first deal. I know you already got a feel, but let me tell you my vested interest in this. I got relatives gonna be going to school here. I want them sharing bathrooms with people that were born like them. I mean, that's my only vested interest. And there's gotta be a way to do that. There's gotta be people in the state of Ohio that are doing that, not violating the things that we're worried about being sued over, which is a big part of this, because I got another worry. If we don't get this worked out, the other side's gonna be suing. So I think we gotta do what's best for everybody. And take care of whoever is involved that has these other needs that aren't anything that I'm used to. But that's about how I can say it, at least. I'm not as politically correct as somebody else was up there. So that's all I got. Thank you.
If you guys came as community members, does it count as a board meeting?
Yeah,
So if you guys all went to the same sporting event?
we can't.
So like when you go to an OSBA conference, those districts, they don't ride together in the same car. Because you
So
could
you
talk
guys all can't
business.
attend the same football game?
And we can do that. We're not discussing board business or things that affect the district.
You guys would be discussing it, people that we're asking questions to.
As long as you're not in attendance together.
Do I?
As long as you're not in attendance together. You can three be at a football game sitting on different ends of the bleachers and not have discussions about board business. I'm saying as far as physically being in the same location or riding in the same vehicle.
Board members are encouraged to attend school events.
I'm not saying you shouldn't, I was just asking if you guys showed up as community members and not board members. It's a big community forum.
I don't think so.
I just asked. Find another workaround, I guess.
I mean, I think we'd like to have it online so that as many people as possible can hear what's said and get the information. So I think that's important, that not just those who can attend whenever it's scheduled can hear it. I think that's important with the information shared.
Do you have to have it videoed? Could you just have the voice part so that?
But that's the part that we're struggling with, right? It's easier to get it on camera than it is for people to hear it.
I mean, I get that it's
Because I thought about that too. I was like, well, we used to just record it and it's no big deal. And it was fine, but that's the part we're struggling with, so.
I mean, I get that it's important, but it didn't work in February, and I let the board know that we needed it to be working in March, and it still didn't work, and now it's 5 weeks, 4 weeks later, 3 weeks later.
Yep.
So is it imperative that whoever's watching on YouTube be able to hear? Can someone, because we've had no problem having someone live stream it. That's always an option for the school too. I mean, somebody could live stream and be able to hear without using your recording devices. There are workarounds.
Conversation, Mr. Cook, and see what.
Yeah, written down.
So.
And there's a system.
So, I mean, I would just like to get this off our, I don't want to wait till the end of May. I don't want to have this after graduation. I mean, that just seems, silly. Like we've got testing dates all the way up through the middle of May. That seems,
I
we're
don't
pushing
need it
it
for
pretty far
graduation.
back at that point.
I won't be here for graduation.
See? That's totally sidebar conversation. So, I mean,
Well, I mean, I can only speak to my part of what
I
I
understand.
with this. I had speakers that could come on either day.
I understand.
Kind of nailed down Thursday would work best for all of them. And Federski could do that. That changed when he decided last minute. And then, you guys didn't want to move forward with just the 3. You wanted to have the school board member there. I think that's important. I can agree. Whether that be Federski, whether that be Mr. McCord, one of them needs to be there. So
I think that's critical that we have our school board attorney for, to answer the questions, right? Answer the, whatever's asked on the questions that come forward. I think it's important that we're not winging it on that. I think that would be not right for us to try and do. So
can we get with Jason to find out if we can get it fixed?
I have that written down.
certainly we can.
Okay. We still have to start there to see if that's an option.
And
Do we want to set a date?
I mean, can we set a date if we don't know if it's online or in person or whatever? I mean, that may
Well, we
affect some
can't do it
people's
till
right
after the
willingness
testing,
to
right?
attend.
So that would put us at the end of May, right?
If we're gonna have it in person.
Right.
We can't.
Provided it's in person.
Correct.
Right.
If it'll take him, as long as it's gonna take that testing to wrap up to get the microphones fixed, then I think we should just proceed and have it online and get the community the answers that they're looking for. I don't know why we keep putting off getting people the answers they want, even if it has to be online. Why wouldn't we just get the information out? I understand people want to be in person. I get it, but what's more important, being in person or getting the answers?
I don't feel like we'll
Truly.
get I don't feel like we'll get the answers that we would get in person. There's a difference in having a face-to-face and being able to be in the room with someone than there is watching something recorded, having something into a YouTube comment field, getting someone a comment back in the YouTube comment field. It's a completely different experience. I mean, it's just completely different. So that's why. And yeah.
So the questions are submitted in advance either way.
Will
You
there be
still
time
feel
for
that
rebuttal
you
either
won't get
way?
the same answer?
Will there be time for rebuttal either way? Will there be time for that didn't answer, that was not an answer to the question that I asked?
Depends on the time frame we choose.
Exactly.
I mean, if we get 100 questions, which I would anticipate, and they're all different, I mean, I don't know, I'm throwing a number out.
Imagine we have several questions that would overlap.
So some of them we may be able to consolidate, but some we may not, so.
And I guess I feel like, and again, I'm sorry, I'm breaking the rules too, so, you know, welcome to the
Yeah.
club. But if some of these things could have been, we've been sending, and I say we, but I mean me, we've been sending emails, we've been asking questions, we've been asking for this information for 2+ months. So the fact that we're sitting here now and saying, well, we just have to have this community forum because there will answer your questions. Why haven't you just been answering them? We've been asking them consistently and clearly and asking for specific documentation, asking for specific things. Why do we have to wait? Where's the respect there, Lori? Where's the respect for the community? You asked us to respect you. Where's the respect for us when we're asking questions directly? We're asking questions of all of you to get answers. And now you're saying, well, we're gonna limit this down to maybe an hour, maybe 2. We'll have some people answering. You only have a certain amount of time that you can do. We've been asking these questions. Why does it have to come down to this? Why does it have to go this long? Whether you want to do it in a week or 2 weeks, why are we at this point where it's gone this long with questions not being answered? Because we made them clear.
Well, I think there's we've spoken to this before, there's 2 very different opinions here.
So give us what
we have, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, but we have put the facts out. Some of the people are not, and I don't want to point fingers or anything like that, but you clearly don't. I've never been in a community before that has told our legal counsel, we don't agree with you. We had 2 different Ohio public school attorneys that are experienced and respected that we've said, and please, if I've misquoted you, correct me. And you guys have said, oh, we don't agree with them.
Because, and here's one reason. We didn't say we didn't.
Okay, okay.
Here's what we're saying. They're saying this, and they're attorneys, and they know the law, and they're saying this. We've talked to other attorneys who also know the law, and they're saying this, and those answers are 2 completely different things. So for us to say, yes, I completely agree that the attorney for the school is correct.
I'll give you another, sorry.
And even the Neola policy that came, whenever that was, Neola sent it out, I think it was before the last work session, it came out, that they coded in there to date, 18 states and the District of Columbia have enacted laws, statutory language and or agency regulations prohibiting discrimination in education on the basis of gender identity. Ohio is not one of them. That is from your Neola policy.
That was not a policy, that was a legal counsel.
These aren't laws, these are legal interpretations. So we can go back and forth on those things all day long.
Correct. I will tell you, I will tell everyone this, and then I will be quiet because we need to wrap this up. I contacted OSBA a week or 2 ago because that's the Ohio School Board Association, hoping that they would give us additional information. They forward cases similar to what our attorneys had given us. And their advice to us was follow your legal counsel. The lead legal counsel there is Sarah Clark. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm a human being. I don't know what else to do.
I think what we're asking you to do is hear from an attorney who is not your school. Hear from John Hart. Hear from people who are doing these things from other angles. That's why just having the school attorney wouldn't cut it, because we already know what they have to say.
But if you have if you have a business and your attorney advises you to do something a certain way, the school's a business.
And if my community was shutting my business down because my community vehemently disagreed with what I was doing, I would find another attorney and I would get different advice. That's where we are. That's why it needs to be. That's why we need different advice.
If it was the law, but our differences of opinion is state law, federal law, statute, opinion. There is difference. And you just choose not to hear us.
So are we going to speak and Mr. Cookman and go from there? Is that?
I mean, I guess so. The problem is this round robin thing where we, talk to each other behind the scenes is not kosher with the sunshine law. We cannot do that. We need to reach consensus that's what we must do. So because we're back and forth, is it online and is it not online and is it this and is that needs to be something we discuss in public.
I can.
And we're limited on the time we can be in public, right?
On my part, I can say that I'm definitely not kosher with anything that's not going to be open to the public, because it's not an in-person community. So that's where I stand.
Period it no matter what, even if it takes to the end of May.
I believe that's where I'm gonna have to part. Based on feedback again, so.
Sure. I'm A-okay with online if it means getting the information out quickly. If it's gonna take Mr. Cook, you know, a long time to get the microphone, or in my mind, a long time is if it's gonna take him more than 2 or 3 weeks to get the sound fixed, which means our 18th meeting, by the way. No, it might be in here because I can't trust the sound in there and it's very frustrating for me. And I don't think it's appropriate for the community to keep dealing with that issue. So if it's not right by the 18th, then I think we need to just move on online and move forward. That's my opinion.
I think probably if the answer is going to be online, we can't get it to be in person, then at that point, the community may want to take it into their own hands and put it together and then invite the school board and invite the attorneys and
100%.
So.
What else have thoughts?
I prefer in person too, so.
However that's managed.
I would think we could figure out a way to do it. I'm kind of sitting here perplexed as to how we can't pull that off here with the space that we have, with the media that we have. I'll be honest, it's a bit frustrating. And I know we share that frustration.
Yeah, you know, and you will forgive me, my laughter is not in any way condescending. It's my defense mechanism because we're at 9:30 and
We're aware.
so please forgive if my laughter is not intended to be condescending. That's my defense mechanism. So I apologize. That was in no way.
No, I didn't take it that way.
I'm just, it's my frustration.
Okay.
2 meetings ago, we got home at 1:30. That's neither here nor there.
Right.
You've done before.
For your communities here too. And I mean, I understand that, I appreciate you staying here and listening to what we have to say. I do appreciate that. So thank you. But we're here too. I mean, I understand that you're giving up your time. We're giving up our time as well. We're giving up time with our families and things that we have to do as well. So that's why we're asking for respect this ways. But thank you.
Well, there are things that we have to do in executive session after this is done.
And our petitions I need to get signed when I leave here too. So yeah, we all have things to do with these.
Okay. What am I now? Anything further about this particular topic? A moment, or are we on pause until we hear from Mr. Cook?
I think that's probably where we're at.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll rediscuss it on the 18th then.
I think that's the plan. Okay. Okay. All right. Need for executive session? I can't remember the, I don't have my.
We have
what are our items?
Does, I mean, did you have to be on the council? Okay.
Okay,
I don't know
so
if we can do.
I know we have a need for executive session under item 1 to discuss the employment and colleague compensation, I guess, of employees. Anything else from anyone else? Anybody?
Yeah.
I'm not leaving, my stuff's still here, I gotta stick around and thank you.
Yeah, no, you are leaving because we have to go to executive. Yeah, you have to go to executive session. So you are.
I'm not invited to that.
Sorry, I know, but everyone's right now.
Thank you, I'm sorry,
No,
I'm very
thank
sorry,
you
thank you.
but appreciate your time. Is there a motion to go in executive session under item
Can I
1
just
for
say what you
employment?
guys
I move.
ended up voting on?
I beg your pardon?
Can I just, what did you guys end up deciding online? Not
Wait till
online?
the 18th.
What?
We're gonna make a
Discuss
final
on the
decision on the 18th. We need to speak with our tech guy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Item 1 for employment and compensation. Motion by, who to go in executive? Lori moved, who seconded?
Donna.
Mrs. Franz seconded. Okay, and the vote, please.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mrs. Sebastian?
Yes.
Mr. Elam?
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue?
Yes.
Mrs. France?
Yes.
Okay, 5-0 to go into executive session at 9:28 PM. Thank you. Is there a vote expected?
No.
Okay, no action expected to be taken.
Thank you everyone for your time. Thank you, Mrs. Henry. I appreciate you. And unless you guys have something for number one, you guys can be excused.
Thank you for bringing in the EPC lady. That's a huge